Yo, and I am Eli.
I'm the Legend 21, and welcome, guys. Thank you for joining us here with our special guest, man.
Yes, you did. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah.
Woo!
Yeah. Oh, I'm doing well, man. Just staying busy with all the various cloud gaming stuff going on in the world today, and yeah, it's been well. How about you guys?
Uh, yeah, I'm doing well too. I got an offer about getting my 6G and 5G shots. The vaccination.
Oh yeah,
So
yeah.
I'm looking forward to that,
Nice.
Hey,
especially to get
Heck yeah.
faster internet.
yeah. I mean, I've heard cloud gaming runs exceptionally well if you get those shots. That is something
Yeah.
that I heard.
As for me, just working lots on the weekend. Glad it's Monday. Usually people hate Mondays, but not for me. It's the other way around. So happy to be here.
Now, are you based in the United States? Because today's a day off for a lot of people here.
Uh, yeah,
Okay.
we got Memorial Day,
Yeah,
right?
Memorial Day
I thought
today.
that
Yeah,
was
yeah.
yesterday for some
No.
reason.
What's
I was
funny is
like,
that these
wait.
holidays, I always forget about them, and, like, on Friday, I texted my wife, and I was like, "Do we have Monday off?" I was like, I just had no clue.
Yeah, dude, I went to the bank to get a statement, and I'm like, "Wait, there's nobody here." So I was like, "Rip."
But actually, you two are from the same. I think you two live near each other because you're from the same time zone.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Central Time.
I'm based in Austin, Texas, the greatest city in Texas, yeah.
I'm just over here in Illinois,
Yeah,
got
yeah.
fields and whatnot.
Fun fact about and I'll stop hijacking it, but you brought up Illinois. Dallas to Chicago is the same distance as Dallas to El Paso, Texas. So that just shows the size of the state. I learned that like 2 weeks ago, and I was just blown away.
Nice.
Yeah. So my kind of I guess lineup has been a lot of Call of Duty Warzone. My buddies and I have been jumping into that. And then I've been playing a lot of Resident Evil Village. So I'm still trying to get through it on my first run through. I just beat the I guess it's I don't know if it's a spoiler, but the dude who vomits and like makes like the crazy foam walls or whatever. I just got done beating him. So yeah, it's been a fun experience.
Uh,
Oh,
Tried to complete. What? What's happening? Do you hear me?
oh yeah, you're fine now.
Okay, fine. Cool. No, I have been trying to beat The Last of Us on the PS3. I'm about 75% through now. It's an awesome game. And
Mhm.
I have been, as usual, playing a lot of Hitman, uh, trying to get some world records. And yeah, nothing else really.
Nice, dude. I've never played The Last of Us yet. Still, it's been so many years. I should get in on that soon.
I'm sorry, I gotta leave the podcast now. I'm
No, I'm
greatly
sorry.
no, I'm just kidding.
No, I actually played it 5 times in a row.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah, no, it's a great game. It's such a good game.
so I hear, man. I'll get it probably on PS3 as well. Cause why not? That's the only console I have besides the Switch. So, but
Yeah,
for me, what have I been
that
playing?
was my
Oh,
thought. No, also on the PS3, it runs amazing, even though it's 720 30 FPS. The quality, I mean, the level of detail, wow, I'm amazed.
nice. Yeah, for me, what I have been playing is it's a little bit of a random game. It's on the Switch. It's called Metopia. Not sure if anyone if you has heard about it. But it's just a funny little silly Nintendo game. It's reminds me of another game that they made like a while ago in the 3DS and whatnot. It's like what was it called? Tomodachi Life or something. I believe that's what it was. It's like that, but like an RPG. So like nice little mix. If any of you guys know those Nintendo games, fun little RPG. But that's all I've been playing since I've mostly been working. Um, yeah,
Nice. Well, finishing us off, I've been playing a lot of Paladins. Been playing that. Been
Paladin.
playing Dauntless. I've kind of just been like revisiting all those like free games I used to play a long time ago. So I've just
Oh,
been playing
apparently
all
they
those.
can't hear you, Ejahmix.
No, I turned on my audio. It was crazy. This time,
Oh, okay.
you guys weren't muted. I was muted. We had one technical difficulty.
Good,
But
good.
yeah, but yeah, I've been playing like Paladins. I played Dauntless. I played a little bit of Mortal Kombat too. I finally went against Anthony, all-purpose champ, in Mortal Kombat. Didn't go well. I won like
I saw the
like
last
every
stream.
round.
I
Yeah, like I won like like in the first rounds we played, I would win like the first round and I would lose the like overall. I'd lose overall. So yeah, man, it was still fun though. I gotta get back in the lab though because he caught me at a bad time. I just finished the Ghost Recon Breakpoint stream. He's like, "Yo, let's go on Mortal Kombat after this." So I didn't have any time to warm up, and I know the entire time he was just warming up and getting right for our match. So he kind of cheated, okay, kind of. But it's fine. I'll take my L. But yeah, I've been doing a little bit of that, and other than that, I think that's it. That's all I've been playing. I think so. But yeah, pretty
When
cool
it comes to
game.
games, do you guys have those games that you go back to like yearly, and it's like, oh, I play this game every single year at least like once, or you guys have anything like that?
Um,
I,
I say
actually, I
yeah. Go
yeah,
ahead.
go ahead. Yeah, okay. Actually, I last year I bought Red Dead Redemption 2 during the summer,
Mhm.
and I played it. It was nice, and then I began playing it here again back in February, and it was still awesome.
That's cool.
And
I have
I have
played
a DC
1
Universe
year.
Online. That game is weird for me. DC Universe Online is the game that I just play like randomly and like sporadically, like random points. I'm just like, I kind of want to play that game for whatever reason. Like I don't like the game in a weird way. I don't like it, but I just play it because I'm just like I'm curious of what they're doing right now. Is the
Yeah, that
graphics
game is
better than
like
last time?
OG PlayStation. What was that? PlayStation 3 or PlayStation
Yeah,
4?
yeah.
Yeah, that was
It's
a great
so
game.
weird.
I spent so many hours in that game.
Yeah.
I remember at one point I built a superhero in DC Universe, and I was just like, God, I gotta call up Stan Lee. I gotta call up DC. They're missing out. They gotta make a comic about this guy.
Yeah.
Nice. For me, it's just been I think I would say Street Fighter. For some
Hmm.
reason, I just been like I would be on and off with it. Like maybe play with my siblings, destroy some people, destroy it online because I'm very bad there. Like wow, these people are like legends. I'm over here calling myself a legend, but these guys will wreck you. Yeah, it's Street Fighter series. It's fun. I like to play it, but
Who's your go-to fighter?
ooh, it's weird. I'm kind of like I would say they're the same, but it's like it's either Ken or Ryu. I
Okay.
use those two. The
See,
only combos I know.
you already proved that you're a bigger Street Fighter fan than me because I always say Ryu and I get corrected. Like
Oh, yeah,
someone's
no, I
like
say
a
that
really
too as
big
well.
Street Fighter fan when it's like
Yeah.
it's Ryu. And I'm like, oh, okay.
Nice man. Then any more thoughts on any of that? I don't think so. I think we can go straight into our our second segment. I don't know why said any thoughts. Usually I say that like right after everything. Like any thoughts on this game, that
Yeah, I've
game.
got thoughts. I've got some thoughts.
Yeah,
man.
we didn't just
How
talk
do you
about
never
everything.
played Last of Us 3? Like, let's. Oh, no, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, man.
I'm about to
But going-
mail you my copy right now.
But yeah, man. Getting into our new segment finally. Let's get into Rainbow Six. So Rainbow Six Siege, if you didn't know, game that's we've been kind of speculating has been coming to Stadia. It got rated last year by the ESRB. Game that we know is coming to the platform. I don't think there's been an official like announcement yet, but it got rated like multiple times now. Last week, essentially, they tweeted out on Twitter. It was a random tweet that they were testing crossplay with PC and cloud gaming platforms. Um, of course, if you look at the comments in that tweet, everybody was talking about console for whatever reason. It was like the weirdest thing for me. Everybody was talking about consoles, and I guess they were like, oh, maybe XCloud from Xbox and like PS Now from PlayStation. But for us Stadia fans, we're like, oh, we know the game's coming to Stadia really soon, so um, yeah, them testing crossplay between PC and cloud gaming platforms is really exciting and pretty important for us, right? Because if you know Rainbow Six, they mentioned in the past that they would never do crossplay between consoles and PC. Like they say they'll never do it. So it's kind of interesting for them to be testing crossplay between PC and cloud gaming platforms. But yeah, any thoughts on that? Bryant, you want to start us off?
Yeah, I mean, I think crossplay. I talked about this on today's video, but it was just like crossplay needs to be, I think, required on cloud gaming platforms for
Mhm.
any new game that comes. Just because we've all played, the games where you jump into a multiplayer and it takes longer than normal. It's not fun. But there's also it's like a give some and you lose some. Like I have a hate love relationship with this because like I want to be able to play with other people, but at the same time, I love the fact that like cloud gaming platforms pretty much restrict cheating in a lot of ways. So it's going to be
Sure.
interesting to see how Ubisoft kind of goes over that hurdle because now cloud gaming platforms have to deal with cheaters, on at least on the PC side to begin with.
Yeah. And what you, Eli?
Um, yeah, you mentioned that they didn't want to do crossplay between.
Oh, he froze again. Yo, last week it was me. Now it's
Cloud
Eli.
gaming. Yo, what's happening? Let me just.
I should stop pressing the freeze button.
What about? What about now? Do
You're
you
good.
guys
Yeah,
hear me?
yeah, yeah,
You're good.
yeah, you're good.
Okay. I mean, you mentioned that they didn't want to do crossplay between PC and consoles, which makes sense uh, because on PC you have better aim because of the mouse and keyboard. But if we look, that I've been testing crossplay with PC and Luna in Rainbow Six Siege, and on Stadia you can also play with keyboard and mouse. I know from my experience in the Hitman speedrun community that when we participate in tournaments, we get paired up with PC people because they count Stadia as a PC, especially because you can play on mouse and keyboard. So therefore, we have a bigger advantage towards console players. So I think it's great that the crossplay with PC is coming, especially
So we keep
it's a big
freezing, man.
market. It never gets old.
Yeah. Yeah. I got
I
like part
don't
of
know
what you
what's
just said.
happening.
Yeah, you keep freezing, man. But
But it
yeah,
froze at the perfect time because
Yeah.
your face looked like you were doing it on purpose for a second. Like you were like, and I was like, wait.
Oh
Yeah, go ahead. Let me try to connect to Ethernet instead, and I'll jump back in the call.
Okay, yeah, but
All right.
to Eli's point, as our screen kind of gets weird because he left. To
Yeah.
Eli's point, I definitely agree with him there. Like it's always been kind of like interesting how they treat Stadia in comparison to consoles, because we've always been having this conversation of like, is Stadia a console or it's a more of a PC platform because of the ability to play games with mouse and keyboard, even though sometimes they don't support mouse and keyboard on some games. It's always been an interesting conversation there. So definitely agree with Eli there that it's it looks like the industry, or I guess like everybody's just kind of starting to look at Stadia as more of a PC platform because of that ability, regardless of if they're playing with if the like players themselves are playing with a controller or mouse and keyboard. So definitely agree there. What about you, Legend? Any thoughts?
Dude, I thought I never thought about this. Like Brian brought it up, the whole us play and how cloud gaming allows it to have like basically virtually no cheaters, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um Now thinking about it, it's like it's interesting to see how they'll combat that if they even want to try to even find a solution or whatever you want to call it. But I think crossplay is awesome. But in terms of like cheaters and whatnot. I'm actually interested to see like what they'll do, like if anything. But yeah, I think crossplay is cool. I think cheaters suck, but I guess we'll see what they'll do with that. Like I'm actually kind of curious now.
About cheaters, and I hope I don't disconnect now because I have Ethernet. About cheaters, I know that Rainbow Six Siege have a really good, what's it called? A cheating platform? Not a cheating
Anti-cheat?
platform. Yeah, anti-cheating client. So it's very good at detecting. They are trying to improve it, so it's going to be as good as the one they use in Valorant. So let's see how it goes. But from my side, obviously, it's positive. The more people we can play with, the merrier.
Cool. So I think we all agree on that point. Getting on to this next topic. So this one, do you guys know anything? I was gonna, I probably should have asked you guys before, but like Legend or Eli, do you guys know anything about Borderlands? I think me and Eli played Borderlands quite a bit.
Dude, no, I haven't touched Borderlands. It's like it's weird. I'm like a gamer. I love to play a lot of video games, but at the same time, it's like I live under a rock and I haven't touched any of the popular games. You know?
Nah, you're just a normal gamer. That's what it is. The normal gamer
We
plays
don't
like
have-
1 to 2
Yeah.
games a year, not like every game that comes out. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I was gonna ask to see if you guys want to lead this topic, but with that, I'll just continue because at this point we're dragging this on a little bit. Anyway, Randy Pitchford, right? He's the CEO of Gearbox Entertainment, right? Which is basically Gearbox is Borderlands, the devs behind Borderlands, right? So he tweeted out. A lot of these are tweets today, a lot of more news. But he tweeted out that crossplay, right? A crossplay update for Borderlands 3, right? They're working on it or it's ready essentially. But crossplay update is prepared and said to be coming to Borderlands 3 across all platforms besides PlayStation, right? Which is not surprising,
Interesting.
but I guess it's an interesting conversation to have. Kind of. I mean, this isn't surprising. PlayStation, we kind of know how PlayStation feels about crossplay. For whatever reason, they believe that crossplay doesn't make them money. We saw this last year with them between Fortnite with Epic and Apple, people buying V-Bucks or whatever on their iPhones, and then to get past like I guess PlayStation's tax or whatever they have or cut that they get out of the in-game currencies there, but it's an interesting conversation to have there with how PlayStation kind of functions. Brian, do you have any thoughts about that?
I think this is just kind of par for the course with PlayStation. I want to say it was like 2019 when all the Fortnite stuff went down, and we all had hoped that it's kind of turned under the leaf. But recently they had those documents leak out that said that if your game is going to have crossplay on PlayStation, then you're going to have to pay almost like a penalty tax on the platform. So if, like, for example, Fortnite or Warzone is on PlayStation, Xbox, and Nintendo and it has crossplay, whatever skins or purchases are made on the other platforms, you as a developer then have to pay PlayStation a percentage or like a tax basically to have crossplay. So I don't think PlayStation needs to do it. But at the same time, then you read things that like Fortnite, I think it was like 60 or 70% of the Fortnite player base is on PlayStation. So it's like to PlayStation, it's like, hey man, we've got the majority of the player base here. Why do we need to share it? So I get both sides. As a gamer, I think it sucks, but I do get both sides of the argument on this one.
Yeah, I have to agree with you, especially since PlayStation are not struggling with having the need for crossplay. It's not like the cloud gaming platforms where they need crossplay to survive. So if they can survive without, it's awesome. But on the other hand, it would be cool to play with your friends across the various platforms, whether it be Xbox or cloud gaming or PC.
What about you, Legend? Any thoughts?
Pretty much what they said. Honestly, it's kind of. I always think of the side of the gamer. Sometimes I forget about the whole business-wise part of it. And like, if they see, like, if they run the stats and whatnot, they see that they don't really need crossplay. Like, it's not really like a thing they have to rely on, and they can split up. And if that makes them think that they will earn more money that way, I say do it because who doesn't love money? But from a gamer standpoint, once again, it's kind of weird. Just play, having it, wanting it, and then all of a sudden it's like, you know what? We're not gonna do crossplay. It's kind of weird how they've been like switching around and whatnot.
Yeah, I mean, I have one more point about that to what between you, what everybody's been saying essentially, but I think PlayStation just is in a position where they can afford to make these calls, right? So where they're in a position where they're like, okay, we know that we just won pretty much this last console generation. We can afford to be as I guess as I don't know what's the term I'm looking for right now. Essentially, for lack of a better term that I can think of right now, we can be as gangsters as we want to about how we want to handle this business stuff, right? So like, but I think at the same time it's worth like I don't think PlayStation understands that sometimes it's worth to look like you're with the gamer, right? We saw what Xbox did I think it was last year with how like they were changing up Xbox Gold, right? When everybody made an uproar on Twitter on all the social platforms, they were like, okay, we know you don't like this. We get it now. We see it. We're gonna go back to what we what things were like before, right? Sometimes it pays though, because now I mean a lot of people are looking at Xbox like, okay, even with how Xbox interacts with Nintendo with crossplay, they're like, oh, okay, Xbox and Nintendo, they're working together, they're being nice with each other because at the end of the day they're doing all this for us. That's what it appears as to us. There might be some business stuff in the background like, oh, money wise or whatever it is in the background that makes that beneficial. But for PlayStation, I just don't feel like they grasp that. I think they've gotten a little arrogant because of how they did this last on the PS4 essentially, and I think they're starting to just kind of they're kind of starting to not be as for the gamer or with the gamer as they used to be. Like even if you go back and watch like E3 side note, but if you go back and watch E3 around the time of like the Xbox One and the PS4 was getting unveiled, right? PlayStation did this thing on stage where they like I think it was around the time like Xbox they were like doing this weird thing with sharing games, and then PlayStation is like this is how you share games on the E3 stage. They took a they took one of their games or whatever and passed it over to their friend. Like at that time they really looked like they were for the player at that time, right? Now that they're kind of doing the same thing Xbox did after Xbox 360, they got a little arrogant. Xbox One comes around, and then now it's kind of wild, and then now we're on the end of the generation, and now they're getting to that same arrogance that Xbox was at that time, I think. So, and, it's all in all, it's a very interesting conversation to have, I guess, on that side of it. I mean, at the end of the day, I just feel like they're gonna have to learn, and the worst case scenario is them not having to learn because they're just so dominating that they're just gonna be the main, I guess, quote unquote, the main attraction in the gaming industry at the end. So. I mean,
well, and I think in a lot of ways, just to kind of piggyback on what you're saying, I think this is really the last generation where crossplay is going to be a question. Like when we get to a point where you have an Xbox app, a PlayStation app, a Nintendo app, and then like Stadia and Luna apps and all that type of stuff on your phone, just like you have Netflix and Hulu, the conversation of crossplay becomes less important because all it takes is like, hey man, let's go play that brand new Xbox game, and then you don't have to worry about, hey, did you buy that $500 console? It's, oh no, just go to xbox.com and we can play it there, or open up the Xbox app on your phone and we can play it there. So crossplay becomes less of a bigger issue because it's like platforms are just going to become so fluid in the future that it's just everyone's going to have every platform essentially, and we'll see. I honestly think that PlayStation is going to play this until they can and just say, okay, and then when they do finally allow crossplay, it's somehow going to get spun as like, look at us, we're the conquering heroes, we're so awesome, and it's like, come on, dude.
Not to step on any toes on any Apple users, but just like with Apple when they said, we have this revolutionizing feature that's coming to our phones, widgets, and then Android users be like, what? New?
Yeah.
I mean, at this point, it's just like there's nothing original. There's nothing really truly new or innovative or whatever. And I feel like that word is flung by many companies a lot, just like innovation, new. But like that would be a rant for a different video. I don't want to take up all the time, but yeah.
Yeah, man. Definitely agree. Well, I think we've said all the things that we need to say about that whole crossplay issue of PlayStation. Let's get into some more, I guess, simple topics. Let's just talk about games. So we have last week on this week on Stadia, I think we got like kind of two of them. But we got Stadia, or on Stadia we have the Olympic Games Tokyo 2020 game and Control coming to Stadia this summer. I think I want to say Control just has it has a summer 2021 release date, so we don't really have an actual date, but it says summer 2021. Hopefully it's actually summer and it's not like Arc where it was like, oh, early 2021 and now it's summer and we're still waiting on, Arc to come to the platform, but that has a summer 2021 release date. So that's pretty exciting. And then we also have the Olympics Games game coming to Stadia June 22nd. So that has a hard release date. Do you guys, have any thoughts on those games? Anything, you want to say on that? Comments, questions, concerns, I guess?
I cannot wait to destroy anyone in the Olympics. Like, I am anyone. I will destroy anyone in the Olympics. Just kidding. No. I think the Olympics looks like a lot of fun. That's the game that out of both of them, I think looks the most exciting. And then Sonic is going to be in it. So
Oh yeah,
I was just gonna say
Sonic
that.
game, yeah, that's cool. Hopefully we actually get like Sonic Mania or something on Stadia pretty soon. That'd be really cool. But yeah. What about you, Legend? Or Eli, one of you?
About okay, go ahead. Yeah,
Oh.
about Control, I have a little speculation to make, but we can take it after we've done talking about Olympics.
I mean, from the Olympics perspective, it's a prime opportunity for like some Stadia community to find a player in every single country and just go for it and just have like the Stadia Olympics or something like that. It looks fun. I think it's gonna be cool.
Yeah. Legend, any thoughts?
Same thing, honestly. I've been thinking of what to do with like my whole SBCN thing, and I won't say too much because I haven't said anything yet. I've been so busy, but this game would be a really nice one for it.
Yeah.
As for Control, dude, I've been hearing a lot of great things about it, and it's the Ultimate Edition, which is cool. But I've seen a lot of cool gameplay. They have been showing ray tracing. It might be a little bit of a dream here, but like it'd be cool if they just like secretly just been like, oh look, Stadia has ray tracing now since Control is here. But I don't think they'll do that.
That's an interesting topic though with ray tracing. I want to say I saw this. I don't know if it's. I just remember this. Based off what you just said. Don't quote me because I could be wrong. But I want to say, isn't Vulkan something that was added to Stadia, and or like something that was. I don't know if it was added or speculated or whatever. But like Vulkan is supported on the Stadia server blades, and it has ray tracing on it. I want to say that's something that I heard. But I mean, regardless, Stadia. We know Stadia Gen 2 blades. If that whole speculation is still around, that's something that's going to happen. They're gonna have to upgrade at some point. So whenever they do, ray tracing is probably going to be something that's definitely on the list, because they're going to have to, upgrade the blades essentially when it comes to trying to compete with the PS5 and the Xbox Series X and whatever Nintendo does. Apparently, side note, the Nintendo Switch apparently is going to support 4K docked, so that's interesting there, but they're going to have to compete and kind of upgrade eventually. So on top of ray tracing, I imagine that, whatever happens, it's going to be on Stadia pretty soon. But yeah. Any more thoughts on that, guys?
Just a quick side note about Vulkan. The Stadia graphics thing tech, it uses Vulkan, and there was an update in late 2020 that now supported ray tracing in the Vulkan engine.
There you go.
So,
you fact checked me. There you go. That's what I was talking about. But yeah, man. So, yeah, I think we'll go into our next
Control.
topic. Oh, Control.
No, about Control.
Yeah.
If we look at Luna, Xbox Game Pass, PlayStation Plus, Control has been on those subscriptions. So, wouldn't you guys agree with me or say that there's a very high chance that it might also come to Stadia Pro? That's just what I'm thinking. Maybe only for a month, but since it has been on those subscriptions and it's a fairly old game, I know it's one game of the year, but there is a chance that it might head on over to Stadia Pro. Maybe
That's
maybe it's
true.
long stretch.
I'd never thought about that, but
I
that
think
would be
that's a
awesome.
fair speculation.
That'd be the
there.
dream.
Yeah, because I mean, Control. I mean, I think it's a little different with Amazon Luna because that whole thing is a subscription to even use. But yeah, it's been on everything. So yeah, that's actually a pretty fair speculation. I don't know if maybe they'll launch it with Arc. Maybe that might be something to do for Stadia Pro. But I don't know if it'll be on Stadia Pro initially. Maybe after a month or two they'll put it on Stadia Pro. Yeah, fair speculation, man. That's something I didn't even think about. So yeah. But I think we're good on Control and the Olympic Games. Let's talk about Arc. So I mentioned Arc. Arc is now I guess they've kind of confirmed. I mean they confirmed it. I'm not even gonna say kind of, but I mean Arc on the Arc Twitter page they tweeted out like a checklist, and it was like doing this. I think they were talking about like updates essentially for Arc, but it was like this and that, and then Arc on Stadia. And it was like their summer plans or something like that. So essentially, they indirectly said that Arc is now coming to Stadia summer 2021. I guess we kind of already knew that because it's not on Stadia yet, but yeah, it's coming. if you're still waiting on Arc, it's coming summer 2021 now. So essentially between now and like August, essentially July August. So yeah, that's I guess. Not really exciting, disappointing because they said January or early 2021, but we there you go, it's there now. We have a new release date. But any thoughts on Art, guys, or you guys are good? No, okay, yeah. Like I said, it's like we know it's coming. We already really talked about this, but now we have another. It got delayed again, so. Cool there. And then we have a Resident Evil update coming to Dead by Daylight. We already knew about this. I want to say it got announced at the Resident Evil showcase that they were doing a collab with Dead by Daylight. So if you're a Dead by Daylight fan, it's going to be coming June 15th. It includes a new killer, 2 nemesis, or my fault. I thought I said 2. The nemesis, I'm sorry. 2 survivors, Leon S. Kennedy and Jill Valentine. So they're from like Resident Evil 3 and Resident Evil 4, I want to say. And then a new map of the iconic Raccoon City police station. So if you're into Resident Evil and you like Dead by Daylight, they're finally doing a collab. So pretty exciting. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, this is gonna be cool. I mean, I love seeing the crossovers that they've done with like Scream and Friday the 13th and all the different other horror films. And now that they're kind of getting into horror video games, it's kind of becoming like the Marvel cinematic of universe of horror games or horror.
Yeah.
And it's pretty cool. Like it's just like kind of when you go to Mortal Kombat and you're like, hey, you can play as the Joker or you can play as this person. It's like Dead by Daylight's now coming like that, where it's like we have our own characters, but we also have the people you've come to love. So I guess what I'm interested to see is what comes next. Like maybe Silent Hill is already in there. Resident Evil will now be in there. I don't know if there's any other iconic horror video games.
Stranger Things. They did a collab with Stranger Things.
Yeah.
So that's one.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think Jason was already in there, something like that. Yeah, some horror games.
Give me Sephiroth as a killer.
Oh yeah.
He can just walk around with his sword and just take people down.
Really cool. But yeah, man.
The ultimate killer would be John Cena because you can't see him. Then he'll just sneak on you.
Yeah, man. Really cool though. With the Resident Evil stuff. And then we have our pro game. So I think before we get into that, right? Did you guys have any like speculations? Like Brian, did you have any speculation on what the pro games were gonna be before you saw our pro games for this month?
I definitely, and I'm lucky I didn't do it. I would have bet money on the fact that Arc was going to be.
Oh yeah, I was about to say besides Arc, because everybody said Arc was finally going to come, but yeah.
Arc I definitely was betting on, and then we've never had a Tomb Raider main series Tomb Raider game in there. Like we, well, no, I guess
no, we did. I think we did early. It was like
I guess the only one we haven't was the third one, right?
Yeah, it was either Shadow or Rise of the Tomb Raider that we got like early. It was like the one of like I think it was like the 4th month or something like that.
Yeah,
but yeah,
I've always been waiting to see the 3rd Tomb Raider pop up. That's been something. And the other one that's never came is the new Serious Sam. That has never been on Pro yet, which is kind of surprising.
Yeah, that's pretty odd to me. I mean, granted it was new, so it released, I guess, new, but I mean, they have the whole collection on there, so I expected that to come at some point. Maybe it still will. But yeah.
I mean, it was a fair shout about Series M because it's currently a PC and Stadia exclusive before it hits on over to the consoles. But personally, I thought, if you even remember this game, it was announced at the Good Stuff event. The game is called Young Souls. It was
Yeah.
like a
Oh, yeah.
teenager game where there's twins. I don't. Everybody seems to have forgotten about that one, but they said it's coming to Pro, so I would have predicted it to come
Dude, I totally
this
forgot.
month alongside Hello
I forgot
Engineer.
about that, man. Like that's a game. I didn't. Even, did they said it was coming to Pro?
If I recall correctly, I'm not sure.
That's odd. Any thoughts, Legend?
Just keep bringing in the games, man. That's all I want.
Yeah, man. Well, I didn't really have any speculation either. I was like, yeah, Arc has to be coming now, right? Hopefully it's Arc, but it wasn't Arc. So, but yeah, getting into our pro games now. The actual June pro games were Chronos Before the Ashes, which is really interesting because that game just came out like December, I want to say. And then it was MotoGP 20, and then Trials of Cold Steel and Blue Fire. So, are you guys interested in any of those, or any thoughts on any of those games?
Have you guys played MotoGP?
No.
I have been looking to play it. I've seen gameplay of it. I've seen Jim play it. It looked fun.
I'm just looking for
Uh,
like an arcade racing game because like
Yeah.
Need for
racing
Speed.
games today are hard. Like Grid is really stupid hard, and so is the other racing game. Like, I think it's Grid. Is that you have to like it shows you
Yeah.
where you need to slow down when you're
Yeah,
this
Oh,
is
yeah,
Grid.
yeah,
F1.
those.
F1's the other one.
I just want
can't
pedal
do
to the
F1.
just let me race. Let me throw some
I
bananas.
just want Need for
Yeah.
Speed,
Yeah,
man.
that works. Yeah. So I'm hoping that
Mario
MotoGP will be
Kart.
a little like that. It looks too much like a simulator, but I do want a good racing game in my life.
Yeah.
What about you, Eli?
I'm looking forward to Chronos because I hear that every time you die, you age 1 year, and I think there's a limit to how old you can get.
1,000
So
years old.
it looks like it looks kind of a fun mechanic, so that you age every
I'm gonna
time
be
you
hitting
die.
that age cap like first hour in.
Yeah. Legend.
Dude, I got my eye on 2 games. Chronos being the main one, but no Blue Fire. Saw a bit of that. It looks pretty interesting. Not sure if it's a roguelike. I'm trying to remember, but I'm interested in Blue Fire and definitely Chronos Before the Ashes. I'll be playing those 2 for sure.
Yeah. I really think Chronos Before the Ashes it suffered. I feel like that game could have been more bigger than it was, but it suffered because CD Projekt Red kept pushing Cyberpunk back and back and back. So their release date was actually pretty good. December. That's around Christmas and all that stuff. But Chronos Before the Ashes really looked interesting to me. Like what Eli said with that mechanic of you aging further and further. Like that was like very like I guess intriguing to me in a gameplay aspect because I mean I don't know how difficult the game is, but I'm imagining like a Sekiro or a Dark Souls or something like that, and you're dying all the time, and you just continue to age and age and age. Like that was an interesting concept to me. But yeah, that's what I'm really excited for. And then Trials of Cold Steel. I like JRPGs, so I really like that one. I like the Ys 8. What's it called? Lacrimosa of Dana. So I haven't finished it yet because it's JRPG. They're usually pretty long, but I'm excited for Trials of Cold Steel 3 as well. And Blue Fire is interesting. MotoGP, I don't know. I don't know how. Like Bryant said, racing games are getting complicated, and I figured out Grid, but I couldn't figure out F1, and I don't. Hopefully, it's not that complicated. Hopefully, it's just a game where I can just go and then turn and then be okay. Yeah. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see how MotoGP goes. Hopefully,
Yeah, one of the
it's,
racing games on Stadia kicked me out of the race because I hit too many people or I went out of bounds too many times. And I was just like, this isn't fun. Like,
Yeah, that's actually both F1 and
Oh,
Grid.
okay.
The only one
Yeah,
that
both of them
doesn't
do
do it is
Monster Truck
um,
Jam.
the
Mhm.
Monster Truck game, yeah, and
Okay.
Dirt 5.
Oh, I forgot about Dirt 5. That's another racing game we have. Haven't played that one yet, but and reality is we just need to
Yes.
have a Mario Kart to come to Stadia. Like, can Stadia make a deal with Nintendo? Like, let's
Nintendo.
just put Mario Kart, the one game that we need, on Stadia for like a month, just so we can get out of our system and we'll be fine.
Yeah,
But yeah, man.
one of the interesting things about these pro games, and I think it was Rock who pointed it out, was that if you look at what Stadia's been bringing to pro, it's almost like they're being Google and looking at the data of what players are playing, because you kind of have consistency in the qualities or in the styles of games that are coming. So,
Mm-hmm.
this is like the second month we've had a trials game come on, and then Chronos Before the Ashes. I mean, that's a pretty popular game, but we
Yeah.
always seem to be getting racing games as well. So perhaps they're seeing that when we bring racing games to pro, people play those more than anything. So
Yeah, fair point, man. Fair point. It looks like they're, like you said, it looks like they're really looking at, like, what we're playing instead of, what we're really gonna enjoy. But at the same time, there was a time where people were thinking, Stadia's running out of the pro games, like they're running out of games to put on pro. So I mean, I guess it's a way to look at it from both sides, but all the same, pretty cool pro games this month. A little something for everybody to enjoy. If you like JRPGs, you got it. If you like a racing type game, you got it. So pretty cool there. And then before we continue though, this is usually the point where Eli plugs all our stuff. So Eli, you want to do that?
Yeah, we're actually past the half-minute point.
Yeah.
If you, I just typed it in. We have a link tree with all of our links, where you can check out our main channel. We're only using it for a playlist at this point, but we are thinking of expanding at some point. Let's see how it all goes. But you can find our Twitter, the main Twitter, and our YouTube channels. Right now, this is season 1. We're doing this on Ejahmix's channel, and then we'll switch over seasons between the 3 of our channels. So go ahead and show us all some love in our link tree, if the link wants to pop up. Yeah.
Cool. So there you go. All the links are there. Click on the link. Go subscribe. Go follow. And I think all our Twitters are just kind of in there too. Is our Twitter in there too, or is the Cloud and Cast Twitter in there?
It's the Cloudian Cast Twitter.
Okay, cool. So you go into Cloud and Cast, and then that's like your directory to get to all of our Twitters, because I don't think all our Twitters are individually linked. But if you want to follow us on Twitter, go to Cloud and Cast. It's in the title and the description. There you go. And of course, all our YouTube channels you can subscribe to is there. And of course, we have Bryant from the Nerf Report. Go subscribe to Bryant's
Remember
channel.
to subscribe to him too.
Yeah.
thank you guys.
If you're not
Yeah,
already
his
subscribed,
link
because
is in the
everybody should be
description.
subscribed.
No,
yeah.
thank you. Appreciate that.
Yeah, man. And his Twitter, Bryant Chappel, right? At Bryant Chappel.
Yeah. I tried going for @Bryant, but someone else has it.
But cool, man. So that's all our stuff. Go check us out. And now we'll get into our some more game stuff. We have Ghost Recon Breakpoint. The free weekend is actually, I think it ended today, at like 10 a.m. Pacific time or something like that.
Yep.
Yeah, Oh, that was actually right. I had it exact. But yeah, Ghost Recon Breakpoint. It was free all weekend. I think it was like last Thursday to now. So if you want to, hopefully you guys got to play it. If it's not already gone now, I think it's gone by now. But hopefully you enjoyed Ghost Recon, because it's a pretty good game for those who are into that genre of games like Division. Even though I think Division's better, but if you're into those types of games, it was there for you. Brian, did you play any Ghost Recon?
No, these free to play weekends are tough for me, just because with having kind of a full-time job during the week, literally the majority of the content that we create that gets posted during the week is usually made between Saturday and Sunday. So gaming time is pretty much just gone on the weekend. So
Yeah.
Stadia, if you're watching, free to play weeks would be way better.
Free to play
But
years.
I get weekends. I get why they do it.
What about you, Eli?
Yeah. Actually, I popped into one of your streams and told you I played I bought Ghost Recon Breakpoint back in July last year when it was at $10, the same time as the Division 2, and I went ahead and played the Division 2, and I fell in love with that. So I never even played Breakpoint until like last week, and I tried to play it, and it feels very immersive, and it's much more story based. Whereas in Division 2, it's just like shooty, shooty, bang, bang, boom, boom, boom. Here in Breakpoint, there is actually a story you have to follow. So it is a fun game, but I know that Ubisoft sees it as a failure because it didn't reach the same sale levels as Wildlands, I think it's called.
Yeah. And what about you, Elijah? Did you play?
Dude, I didn't even have time to try it. These dang weekends, man. Like Brian said, man. Like make them a week at least, please.
Yeah.
And then I'd be able to finally try them. But no, I haven't gotten to play that.
Yeah, well, I want a copy. So I honestly, this is not the type of game I would have bought, honestly. But I won the Ultimate Edition, so I mean, I play it every once in a while, and I decided to, be a YouTuber and try to use the most effective tactic available and stream it for like an hour because it was the free play weekend. Yeah, man, it's not a game that I just particularly enjoy. I like Division a lot more. Probably because it's not as story based. It's like just a Eli said, shooty shooty bang bang, and run around, and then you get a little bit of story there, here and there. You don't really have to pay attention though. But Ghost Recon is like heavy on story and like finding like places to go based on like riddles and clues and all types of stuff. So really not my speed, honestly, just based on the type of the game. But hopefully you guys got to enjoy it. Anybody that got to play it this past weekend, and yeah, it's gone now. So if you enjoyed it, go ahead and buy it. Why not? But then we have Far
It's
Cry.
on sale.
Oh, it's on sale now, right? Okay, yeah. There
Yeah.
you go. So is it on sale for $10 like last time, or?
I can't see it because I have already bought it. So
Oh, okay. Well, yeah, I
I'll
couldn't see it either.
quickly
So
look for it.
yeah, I mean, it's on sale, so if you're into it, there you go. You could possibly get it at a cheaper price. So all the same. But then we can get into our next game. We have Far Cry 6. Far Cry 6, they released like a whole I guess a showcase of the game a little bit of different things. It was like a trailer, I think it was like a couple trailers where they talked about the game. Far Cry 6 honestly looks
uh,
really good, and we got a release date, which is October 7th, this year. So really really exciting there.
yeah,
Um,
I did a live reaction with Kiefer and Ray. It was pretty nice. I mean, the first 40 minutes it was just them showing postcards. The actual reveal was about 5 minutes long. It was an awesome trailer, to be honest. There was a deep dive with commentary and a cinematic trailer. It looks like it's going to have co-op, and they didn't mention anything about the FPS. One thing I don't like about Far Cry games on Stadia is that it runs at 30 FPS, and especially you can feel that. I mean, if you play with a controller, it's fine, but when you play with a mouse and keyboard, 30 FPS in a first-person game, it just doesn't feel as right. Um, so I hope, since it's a new game, a new generation, although it's launching on the old gen, that it's going to be 60 FPS at least.
Bryant disappeared, but Bryant, any thoughts on that?
Hold on.
Okay.
Wait, that was weird.
Yeah.
That was weird. I don't know what just happened. Still here.
Trying to leave early, huh?
No. Just trying to do a costume change, guys. Sorry.
Yeah, but any thoughts on Far Cry 6, Bryant?
I think it's honestly, this is the first Far Cry game that I think I'm going to be picking up. Historically, I haven't picked up Far Cry, but this one seems like the story is going to be kind of what draws me in. Plus, I can't think of, is it Gustavo? Is that his? No, that's his character's name. Shoot, the villain in this game, is the villain that's in Breaking Bad. And anytime my favorite actors transfer over to video games, I always have to pick it up. Just like when Kevin Spacey came over to Call of Duty, I had to pick up that one. So I'm interested to see how he does in Far Cry. It's going to be really, really cool.
Giancarlo Esposito.
There you go. Yes, thank you.
Okay, cool.
In case he's watching this, I apologize. I won't forget your name next time.
Yeah, we have millions of subs. Of course he's watching. Of course.
So it's Giancarlo Esposito.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know how to pronounce it.
Cool. Well, yeah, we had that Far Cry 6, and then also the last bit of news I think we have, um, we had Destiny 2. So Destiny 2 went into crossplay beta for like 2 or 3 days this past week. I missed it because it was only 3 days, like during the smack
Dude,
dab in the middle of the week. I missed it. And if it was on the weekend, I was like, oh, I would have been like, oh, let's play Destiny, but I totally missed it. I think it was like a, let me see, I have it listed here. It was Vanguard Strikes crossplay beta playlist. So if you know Destiny, you have like playlists that you can do. That's just like, it's like a Strike playlist that you just kind of cycle through or whatever. It was available to all players. You know, PlayStation. I think was PlayStation included on this one. You guys know? I think it was
Yeah, I
because it
believe
wasn't
it
like
was.
a
Yeah.
big deal about just like Borderlands. It wasn't a big deal this time. So, PlayStation, Xbox, PC, and Stadia. I don't think it's on Nintendo Switch. That's what I was about to say, but
Nintendo. Oh
definitely
snap!
not.
I gotta pick that up.
Yeah, yeah. Destiny 2 had a crossplay beta thing this past week. Did you guys play any Destiny during this beta? No.
I
No, and
haven't played. Yeah. Oh, go ahead.
yeah, dude, no, and what I was saying was like, and I'm sad because although I've been taking a break from Destiny, I do have like around 600 plus hours, and that was my game, like my go-to game daily. I would play it, so like, it's like missing something as big as like a cross-play event kind of deal. Kind of hurts because I found out about it after it was over.
Man,
But
I thought you would have caught
would have
it. You
been
got
cool
a
to try.
Destiny 2 poster in the back, man. I thought
Yeah.
you would have caught it.
The poster didn't tell me this time. You know, it usually tells me all the news, but
Yeah, man.
I think the only time I played Destiny 2 was when I had to try out Stadia, and everybody said, try Destiny, and
Yeah.
I tried it. It's not my type of game, but at least it convinced me that Stadia ran great.
I don't know how close you guys have been following this like cross-play, cross-progression story for Destiny, but when Bungie originally announced the cross-progression side, I think it was like at the start of when did Cade? Oh, I shouldn't really say that. I guess that's a spoiler.
yeah.
Nah, it's been months, man. It's been years, man. You're good.
Yeah, so it was like when the most recent update,
Forsaken, I believe.
Forsaken,
Mhm.
they came out and they were talking about crossplay and cross progression, and they're like, "This is something we wanted to do when Destiny 2 first came out, but there's always been a certain party that kind of prevented it from happening."
Yeah.
So it's really interesting to see, especially tying back to the first story we talked about with Borderlands. PlayStation has kind of been holding up crossplay for a lot of different games out there. And Destiny specifically, when you look back at like Destiny 1, they definitely didn't want crossplay because they had so many exclusives on the platform.
Yeah.
So it's cool to finally see Destiny 2 get crossplay. So I'm hoping that now that they've tested out the beta and they accidentally leaked it, that maybe we don't have to wait until fall. Maybe it comes a little sooner.
Mm-hmm. On that topic, I mean, we were talking about how, or I made a comment about how it's gonna take. Hopefully, it doesn't take or hopefully PlayStation just has to learn through experience and all that stuff. But like, it's gonna be really interesting. With Borderlands, they were like, yeah, we have an update ready, and though everybody's good except PlayStation, it might become a trend, where it's like, yeah, crossplay is available on everything for everybody on any platform. But everybody can play this game. Your cousins, your auntie, your mom, your pops, everybody on every platform except on PlayStation. Like that might be just something that happens and it would suck, but I mean, it's probably gonna be something that has to happen for PlayStation to get out of that bubble of them trying to keep everything on their platform and things happening like with Spider-Man being only exclusive on the PlayStation, except or with it not being on every other platform when it's a game that's on everything. Things like that, little things like that it just might take them, take the industry as a whole to just kind of what's the term I'm looking for? Alienate them in a way where it's just kind of like it's the PlayStation, island there. Everybody else is over here, good to go. But because you guys don't want to open up your gates or whatever for us to go on the PlayStation island, you're just gonna have to sit there and just kind of watch as everybody else is, cool and I guess playing all the games that we want to play on everything. So
Well, and
Yeah.
I want to make it clear, I don't work for Stadia, but if I did,
Mhm.
that would be one of the main narratives that I continue to hound in of being like, hey, you have a smartphone or a tablet, great, you can play Destiny 2 on it right now, and with cross progression, you can transfer it over. Borderlands 3, you want to play Borderlands 3 with your friends?
Exactly.
Download our app, we're good to go. That's the type of narrative that we kind of refer to it as like the cyberpunk moment, I guess is a good way to know,
Mhm.
where Stadia has consistently been trying to find this cyberpunk moment again and again and again
Yeah.
to capitalize on older platforms, making mistakes. And this is a great opportunity for not just Stadia but any cloud gaming platform to really kind of jump in and be like, hey, this isn't the future of gaming. Come try out the future of gaming.
Yeah. Definitely great on that. Any other thoughts, guys, about that? No? Good? Okay. Well, we'll get into our next topic. Well, is that it? I think that's it. Never mind. We don't really have speculation or controversy, honestly. I mean, we put some things down, but I mean, luckily for the first time in forever, Stadia hasn't had anything crazy going on in a week. There hasn't been Kotaku and Verge and everybody talking about how Stadia is dying or anything. So we really didn't have much to talk about. But we can we were talking about PlayStation. Like one of the things we could possibly talk about, something that we had listed was talking about PlayStation crossplay, but we talking about that all show. So I guess we'll talk about E3, right? E3 is coming up June 12th to June 15th. And this is more so speculation, but um,
Yeah.
Brian, I have to ask, like, do you have any I guess anything that you're really excited for E3 this year?
We talked about it before the show. Nintendo definitely intrigues me.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Mm.
I'm actually I'm optimistically looking forward to maybe a cloud gaming connect or maybe something from Amazon or something along that side.
Mm-hmm.
I think that this is a good opportunity for Stadia to come out and say, "Hey, we're still standing." Luna would surprise me. That would be the one that I don't think we'd see. I think maybe we'd see a blog post, but
Mm-hmm.
Stadia is definitely at a point that I think that um, they could benefit from having a connect that would interest me. But really, I gotta be honest with you guys. I mean, this is like my 5th year covering E3 for the Nerf report. This might be the least excited that I've been for an E3
That's
in a
very
very long time. Just because I think last year we had the PlayStation 5 and the Xbox Series X, so the hype level was so high.
Mm-hmm.
And this year I'm just like, it's just another week that I have to work
Mm-hmm.
24 hours a day to,
Yeah.
to produce content
Yeah.
for.
And E3
No,
on
I have
something
to.
I was gonna say real quick, like last year E3 was like canceled, right? So like, this
Mhm.
is gonna be. I mean, like Brian said, I'm not super excited for anything but Nintendo and maybe what Stadia possibly could do. But like E3 was canceled last year, and I want to say I don't know if it was last year, but wasn't there a year Sony like pulled out of E3? Like they were like,
Yeah,
yeah, we
two
don't
years
have
ago,
anything.
right before
Yeah,
COVID.
yeah, exactly. So they pulled out. They're like, yeah, we don't have anything to offer. Does anybody like know if they're doing E3 this year or?
I think they have my guess would be a state of play because isn't that what they
Okay.
did with the
Yeah, that's
PS5
what they
or
did.
no?
Yeah, that's what they
They
did in
had the
place of
state of yeah.
E3.
Okay.
Yeah. So that might be something they just do. I think they might just be tapped out of E3, and I think that's part of why E3 doesn't feel as exciting as it did. That's not only why, but I mean, it's kind of wild. You expect the first E3 after the new consoles coming out to be one of the most exciting and hype years for anything. And it kind of sucks because last year we didn't have E3, so we didn't really get those on stage like announcements, big announcements that we had gotten before. Um, but I mean, it's gonna be really weird. I think besides Nintendo because they stuck with E3. I think that's gonna be really the only most interesting thing to happen, and it's gonna be kind of weird this year to see how things go on. But go ahead, Eli. What do you have to say?
Yeah. I have two things now. Royal Donut says that he can see. It's a fair point. He can see that Luna is doing something for the Summer Game Fest since
Mm-hmm.
it's presented by Amazon Gaming. I thought that should get highlighted. The other thing I wanted to say is I have to agree with Bryant. If we look at 2021, not upcoming year 2022, we don't have that many game releases. And when I say game releases, I'm thinking about AAA titles. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, we barely have any games releasing this year because they have all been pushed. Pushed like we should have had Suicide Squads, Gotham Knights, the Harry Potter game. I can't remember its name right now, but we would have had a lot of games, but they unfortunately got pushed. So, yeah.
Do you guys think it's just become such a diluted thing that pre-COVID, pre-2019, that E3 was a big deal because it was the one moment we hear everything about gaming. It's like the one moment when the world of gaming stops and everybody pays attention to it. So it was important. But since that date, we've had State of Plays, we've had Xbox,
Mm-hmm.
EXO, whatever's. We've had Ubisoft Play. I don't know what they call theirs. Nintendo Tree
Stuff
Houses.
forward.
Yes, yeah, there you go. The Fords, the tree houses, the every developer. I mean, if you looked at it last week, I laughed about this because it felt like every developer scheduled something for Thursday.
Mm-hmm.
You had Sonic or you had Sega do their things immediately during the Sega one at the exact same time period. You had Supermassive showing off the brand new House of Ashes gameplay, and then you also had Dying Light 2 show off their gameplay. And then later in the day, we had PlayStation Horizon Forbidden West, and then on Friday we had Far Cry, and it's like we have no need for E3. Like these
Yeah.
developers can literally just
Yeah.
announce whatever they want whenever they want, and I mean, I hope E3 is good this year, but I mean
Mm-hmm.
I'm I'm optimistic, but I mean I'm not hyped.
Yeah.
Yeah, like
Uh,
just with what
I
you.
I
Oh,
have
sorry.
heard.
I'll let you.
No, it was just
Oh,
agree.
okay. Yeah, dude. Basically, yeah, like it's kind of like this reminds me kind of like it's a little bit off topic, but it kind of reminds me of like Netflix and like how that was the one big streaming service for like all your content in terms of movies and shows and whatnot. And now you got like a bunch of like companies like Paramount Plus, you got Disney Plus, you got all these companies splitting off, and it seems that it's kind of rubbing off on the gaming world. And now it's not just like E3 is the only event. There's like every single or publisher company, whatever you want to call it, doing their own thing, which is kind of like interesting to see why they're just kind of like splitting off like that. Maybe they just want like I don't know their own spotlight in their own day. But yeah,
Honestly, it's really. I think that's one of the things. Like, of course, we're getting to an age where things are starting to kind of get more digital and digitized and things like that. But honestly, I think it's one of the most disappointing things. I think to see kind of, I guess, migrate out or kind of like cycle out of the sense of E3 used to be so huge. It was like the most exciting time of the year, and now like to see that kind of decline honestly is really disappointing because I remember like this is before I started making content or anything, and was just like a gamer and just watching these games and these conferences. Even during the time where I wasn't really playing games a lot, I was still excited for E3 because I knew anything I might be interested in or anything, and just in general, just for the hype of it, the excitement and the fun of it, E3 was going to be that event I really wanted to tune into, and I was always thinking about like, oh guys, E3's coming soon. Like it was the most exciting thing to happen. So I think it's really really disappointing, honestly, and in a way disheartening to see that they're just kind of starting to split off. And no, from a business aspect, someone in chat just said it costs a fortune to attend E3, but honestly, it's worth it in many ways because it gets that event just gets kind of, it garners hype. It garners hype for things, and to see like what Brian said, Supermassive, they did all their different, showcases or events for their games. I didn't even know. Like I didn't even know that Supermassive did any of that. Like I didn't know that there were other games announced besides or shown off besides Far Cry 6. I didn't know. And that was the beauty of E3. Things that you didn't know was coming, or things that you just like, would have never encountered or anything, got announced all at the same time in E3. So you spend the whole time just watching all the streams, or if you couldn't go to E3 and all that stuff, discovering things that just kind of became interesting to you or entice you that you would have never encountered before. So that's all I say. It's really disappointing. Hopefully, maybe this might be a little too optimistic, just seeing of the direction the industry is going into. But I mean, hopefully they just kind of come out of that post COVID. After like next year, or maybe in 2 years when things aren't as bad, maybe we start kind of getting back into that because that was it's always been an exciting time, and it would suck to see that just kind of go out to developers and publishers just and announcing their own things on their own time. But
Yeah, I mean, I think if I were to look at this year's E3, usually you go into it and you're like, oh, this is Xbox's year. They have to win it, or they have to make a big impact. I think if you look at who's performing this year, or who's showcasing, Nintendo, I think has the most to lose and the most to gain from it as well. I think with the rumors of a new Nintendo Switch right around the corner, that's I think what everybody's looking forward to. You got Breath of the Wild 2, but then on the Xbox stage, you have Halo Infinite, which I feel like we've already seen. I think everybody has an idea of where that's going. Hellblade interests me. Like Hellblade would be kind of cool if we got to see an update on that. Maybe a gameplay trailer for that, which like that's Xbox's God of War essentially. And then the other thing that I've heard rumored that Xbox could be showcasing, which I'm hyped for, is Battlefield, like the new Battlefield trailer. That could be on the Xbox stage, but you know, nothing's confirmed at this point.
Well, any more thoughts, guys?
My prediction for Battlefield is June 6th, because they made a tweet about what rhymes with June soon, and they didn't say anything anymore. But June 6th, Battlefield 6, maybe it's a long stretch. But I have some speculation about E3 that Saints Row 5 might be released, or not released, revealed, I meant to say, because Koch Media, they announced, again, as you said, Bryant, every developer is doing it now. They announced their own event, and there are high rumors about that Saints Row 5 might be revealed during their event.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a big fan of Saints Row. I will pick up any Saints Row that comes out. I mean, it's GTA. If GTA was allowed to do whatever the hell they wanted to in that game.
Yo, I just want to comment on yo Legend. Was that you? Yeah, that was Legend. I was about to say that's Ray.
Yeah, you saw my
KFC
comment.
console. Yo, the K on the console. Yeah.
News on that, man.
Oh, yeah. But yeah, man, I think we wrapped up our speculation, I guess, and then we'll get into really quickly our platform highlight. So Stadia this week, two things happened. We had the OnePlus. If you guys know OnePlus, the smartphone brand. OnePlus, they announced a bundle with Google Stadia. So it looks to be as if you buy a OnePlus 9, OnePlus 9 Pro, OnePlus 8 Pro, 8T, and Nord from OnePlus.com, you can get a Stadia Premier Edition bundle as well. And I want to say, as part of this offer, customers in UK, France, and Germany. So if you're in the UK, France, and Germany, you could get that promo. So with your new phone, you can get a new Stadia controller and Chromecast to play games on your smartphone or your TV or whatever you want to play it on. So really cool there. And then we also had so the Google Store, right? The Google Store, we talked about this. I think we started talking about this last week. Maybe we didn't, but Google Store,
it was last week.
Okay, yeah. So we talked about the Google Store. That was like big news last week about them finally coming out with their own store in New York. So there's actually been some photos as well from some of the clips or like photos of like the inside of the Google Store. But Stadia is going to be making its second retail debut. They kind of already did it with Best Buy. But they're going to be making their second retail debut in the Google Store in New York. So you're going to be able to, if you live in New York, you're going to be able to go inside the Google Store and see like Stadia promo and things like that. And you're going to be able to buy a Premier Edition from the store in New York. So between those two things, Brian, do you have any thoughts or anything on those?
I want to be the first channel on YouTube to cover the Stadia Store. So Phil Harrison, please let me come to the Stadia Store or the Google Store once it's opened, and I think it's huge. I really do. I said this when Best Buy came out with the announcement, but Stadia is one of those things that you really need to set up a display for. And let people try it out, because we long story, but I'll try to make it short. My neighbors or my friends kid had a birthday, and they got one of those game trucks, which are like these gigantic trailers that have like 5 TVs inside of them with PlayStations, Xboxes, and everything. And I was talking with the employees, and I was like, "What do you guys game on?" And they're like, "Oh, we're part of the PC Master Race." And they're like, "Where do you game on?" I'm like, "Oh, I game on Stadia." And both of them just kind of stopped and looked at me. They're like, "We've never met anybody that games on Stadia before," and they were asking questions like, "How does it work? Is it good?" I was like, "Dude, I literally live down the street. We could hook this up in this trailer right now and
Heck yeah.
play Cyberpunk, or we could do any of these." And the idea of it kind of blew their mind. But what that tells me is that the average gamer still doesn't know enough about Google Stadia. Like, I think that, and this is something I try to always explain to people who look at things um, and say Stadia's doomed, Stadia's dead. I think that if you look at Twitter and the people who talk about gaming constantly, I think that they represent like 15% of the gaming community. And then you have the additional 65, 75, 85%, whatever you want to break it down as, of gamers who literally just play Madden, Call of Duty, and one other game, and that's all they play out of the entire year. So for Stadia to take a retail presence, I think that this is huge. Like, it gives them the ability to control the narrative and say, "Hey, go test it. Go try it out at a retail location and see for yourself that lag isn't an issue. Games look great running on the platform." And this is, I'm trying to think if I can get in trouble for saying this. I'll try to say this as politically correct as possible, but we have the potential to have a conversation with somebody who might be coming on the show. And one of the questions that I had to fill out, they were like, "We want to know your questions in advance." And one of the questions was, when Stadia launched, we immediately went into a pandemic. So what that means as a platform is you can't go to PAX, you can't go to E3, you can't go to gaming conventions. How do you launch a gaming console, or how do you launch a platform when your legs get cut out from underneath you? You rely on social media, and unfortunately social media has just been brutal for cloud gaming platforms. So I think that that's a really interesting conversation, to say that now COVID is kind of starting to disappear and the pandemic is ending and people are getting vaccinated. How does Stadia go to market? Like, do we see Stadia pop-ups around the country, or do we see a Stadia RV that drives from major city to major city to let you try it out? Do they go to the PAXs? Like, they're given this chance to finally go to market the way they want, and that's the part that really fascinates me. So this Google store in New York, I think it's a great step in the right direction, but it's like, man, pop up a store in every single mall in America and just go at it. Like, I think that's what's needed.
You gotta have it like right across from the Apple store. It'd be the Google store and the Apple store right across.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, man. Definitely agree on that.
No, I agree with you. If we look at I don't know, it's a very small country in Europe. It's called Estonia.
Yeah. The sun
Have you heard of
doesn't
that?
set for like
Uh,
half the year. For half the year, the sun never sets, or it never rises, or something like that.
I-
Oh,
I'm
okay.
not sure about that. The only fact I know is that they have almost every household has fiber internet, 1 gig
Whoa.
up, 1 gig down, and it isn't even available in Estonia. I mean, here in Denmark, I'm moderating a Facebook page. We have great internet infrastructure, but it seems like they don't advertise in Denmark either. I think that the best thing for Google to do is to advertise in those countries that have great internet, so they get a nice experience out of it. And yeah, as you mentioned, stores in America, because I believe also the infrastructure in America is good. I'm not sure. I don't live there, but yeah.
It's. I wouldn't say it's.
Passable.
I'd say in areas it's good, but there's areas where
Yeah.
it's just like you start hearing banjos in the background and you start getting a little nervous. This is a little weird.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
Oh, that was it.
On to the next topic.
Okay.
According to Jack the Slip, we have almost 100 Stadia. We have almost had 100 Stadia Pro titles since launch, and I know for a fact that Bryant, you're a founder, and so are you, Ariel. Can you confirm this?
I've lost count. I mean, that's kind of
Yeah,
where
man.
I'm at. Honestly, I think Jack is a very honest and truthful guy when it comes to his stats. So if he's saying we're getting close to 100, I believe it. I don't know off the top of my head how many we've had.
Like I can't
Yeah, I
remember either.
want to say
I can
near
say like
100.
yeah. When did you go say what did you say, Ariel?
No, I was saying like, yeah, I'm pretty sure we're getting close to that 100. Like, if
Okay.
I'm being honest, just a quick glance at my library here.
Yeah, but I was gonna say like I don't remember like the exact games. Like I'll never remember that, but I can remember like phases where I was just like, oh, last year I want to say we like got like PUBG around this time and all those different things. Like I can remember like certain games that I remember like us being super hype about during certain times. But yeah, man, it's not surprising to me because we've had quite a bit of Stadia Pro games, especially like towards the end of last year, where it was like, oh, we were getting like 6 and then 7. And then December we had like I want to say we had like 8. I want to say like somewhere around that, like 6 to 8 games, whatever it was. But like we were getting a lot of games towards the end of last year, so not surprising at all to me. But yeah, pretty exciting all the same. And then we go into our community achievements slash guest highlight where we're going to be asking Bryant some questions shortly. But a few things here we have S Stadia, which is a Spanish Stadia channel, and we have Stadia Estado, another Spanish Stadia channel. They're having like massive growth. Eli, I know you put these on here. How much growth are they having, man? Do you know?
I mean, I usually for our community highlight just contact Jack the Slip. He's the number guy. He's done an amazing job. Uh, he said that they were growing about from a week to week basis at a 40% rate, like from this week to this week. So it's like crazy. I'm glad because I live in Europe. I'm glad that more Europeans are becoming more aware of Stadia.
Yeah, I
Cool.
mean it's awesome. Like back in the early days of Credo, like when Credo first came to the platform, I was lucky enough to be on a conference call with the Credo team, and they said that their player base at a point that they couldn't give me like exact specifics, but they said that Europe and kind of like the Norway region is where the majority of the Credo players were coming from. So I definitely think that the European side, like there's enough Americans talking about video games at this point. Like, let's get some Europeans out there. Let's get them to talk about the platform as well.
Mm-hmm. Definitely agreed there. But we also have Codex Entertainment. I believe that's one of the YouTubers, a part of the SBCN, possibly not. I don't know, but I'm pretty sure they cover Stadia. I don't know. Eli put all this stuff on here, and he's gone right now, or he's back
Oh,
now. But yeah, Codex Entertainment hit 500 subscribers on YouTube. Really exciting. Oh, and then Jack can talk about this a bit more, but we have the Stadia Summer Tournament, right? It's gonna be a tournament coming up. You guys probably heard of it. I'll explain it because I'm gonna be someone that's kind of a part of it. He reached out to me, so pretty exciting there. But
Same here.
yeah, cool. So yeah, I guess we're all gonna be kind of a part of it. But yeah, the Stadia Summer Tournament coming up, and basically it's gonna be a 4 week tournament from what I remember how he explained it. 4 week tournament where there's gonna be 4 different games that are played, competitive multiplayer games on Stadia. So anybody can get into them. I think some of them might be on Stadia Pro. None of the games have been announced, but some of them may be on Stadia Pro. Some of them may be
Uh, I
yeah.
have something to add.
Okay.
From the looks of it, I can try to find the tweet so you can share it for the guys to see.
Okay. Yeah. Sure.
Um, there was a picture. It's very nice, um, where it says where it comes with details about the whole tournament.
Oh, really?
And
So I can
from the
just read
looks of
that?
it, it's going
Okay.
to be games including state share. I tried to put it in the chat. I can also put it here on the doc.
Oh, including
Um,
state share. Okay.
it looks like you have to scroll up.
All right.
Yeah,
Let me
it looks like games with state share because it makes sense because then they can choose the loadout. They wanted to make it equally fair for everyone. The
state
first
share.
game looks like Hitman because it is a logo of Hitman.
Mm-hmm.
The second one looks like Pixel Junk Raiders, and the third one looks like Kaze. I'm not sure about what the fourth one is, but two of them are on Pro. Technically, Hitman 1 and 2 are two. Uh, The fourth one, I'm not sure, Brian. Do you know
Yeah,
which games
that's
have
that's
stage
the
share?
I don't know if that game has stage share, but I'm pretty sure that's like that Wild West game. Sorry, I'm loading up my Stadia to look.
Oh, West of
Okay.
Loathing.
Yeah, West. It looks exactly like West of Loathing,
Okay.
but I don't know if that has
Okay, I
stage
can see
share.
the. Oh wow, I can see the picture here. Oh, so he did kind of announce the game. So yeah, Hitman. That's definitely Pixel Junk. That's definitely. I think that's Kaze, right?
Mm-hmm.
That looks
Yeah.
like Kaze. And then that last one, I don't know. It's white. Um,
Yeah, that's West of Loathing.
yeah, that's. Oh, it was okay. So those are the games. Oh
Yeah, I'm
wow.
looking at the logo right here on.
Okay, let me see if I can put this on screen really quick. But yeah, man. Okay, so yeah, never mind. The games have been
Maybe,
announced. More or less, they're kind of blurred out,
maybe
but
not.
definitely,
Maybe
definitely
it's not
have.
West of Loathing. I don't know.
Hold on, let me
Now
put
that
this
I'm
on.
looking at it side by side, I
I,
have no idea.
I,
Yeah.
I would have said it was Krita. Didn't they used to have a white
No, it's
logo,
always been
or
that
Nah,
dude.
they
that would
changed
have
it?
been a lot more colorful, I
Oh,
think, if it was Kratos.
Yeah, West. I mean, Risk of Rain, but Risk of Rain has color in their logo.
blue.
Yeah. Really, I mean, West of Loathing is the only pro game that has that black and white to it.
Mm-hmm.
About Floor
Yeah.
Kids. I don't
Floor
know.
Kids has color on it.
Yeah, I'm trying to put it on screen so you guys can
And
see.
if we look at the footprint, it says that games are subject to change without notice. So, yeah.
Oh, okay. Oh, so not really confirmed, just kind of there. Well, I mean, I can't put this thing on screen for whatever reason because OBS is not recognizing that I have a tab ready to go. But anyway, that's those are kind of the games that it looks like. I mean, oh yeah, Ariel has it down there if you guys can see it. Um, yeah, so it looks like Hitman, Pixel Junk for sure, Kaze, and then whatever that white one is. The guys been saying West of Loathing. But yeah, and they're subject to change, so those could easily not be the games. But Hitman 3 is not as blurred, so maybe Hitman 3 is confirmed. Who knows? But yeah, man.
Do we know if that's going to be an actual trophy?
Oh, the
Yeah,
Give me a
there is
gold-plated Stadia
a
controller,
physical
please.
trophy. No, a trophy not, but they have a grand prize of $1,000
Oh yeah.
and $100 for each game. I mean, if it is Hitman, consider me the winner.
Yeah.
Uh, I would like to bloat. I'm a speedrun in the Hitman community. I know all the ins and outs.
Yeah, man.
So yeah.
He's our world record holder. Like this is gonna be a cheat. Essentially, it's like you're trying to put It's like trying to put like Michael Jordan in a little league basketball team. Like it's just not fair. You know what I'm saying?
But it'd be fun to watch.
Yeah, it'd be fun to watch for sure. But yeah, man, a little more information about it really quickly. Just the 3 steps here. Sign-ups open June 2021, so this month coming essentially tomorrow, because tomorrow's June 1st. There's no limit on number of
Gotta
entrants.
sign up.
Step 2, it says compete in the open qualifiers, record and submit your best score time for a chance to win $100 per game. So it looks like, if it's Hitman, Eli can just send in his world record thing and he'd probably win. This, like I said, he's like Eli is he's gonna win Hitman easily. But that's there too. And then the third step is battle it out for a place on the podium. Top scores across all 4 games will go forth into a live competitive elimination round for a chance to win one of 3 cash prizes, including the $1,000 grand prize. So, like we said, if you can play in the qualifiers and then you can win $100 just for winning qualifiers. So even if you don't get to the final part or whatever, you'll win a little bit of money there. And then it says the grand prize $1,000 of course. Second place gets $500 and third place gets $200. So definitely exciting there. So you can win a lot of money, pretty much. You can win a lot of money, guys. So if you're hardcore, if you're confident in your Hitman skills or whatever game, Pixel Junk, whatever it is, you can win some money, man. So shout out to Jack Despolice for organizing this event, and should be a good time, man. Should be a good time. But yeah, man, let's get into our questions. Or Eli, go ahead.
This is kind of also a spotlight question. Bryant, are you going to participate?
Yeah, no.
I know you're a busy guy.
Jack and I were actually messaging about this, I think, last night. Yeah, unfortunately, I won't be able to. But what I did tell him was that I would be supporting them in the sense of like trying to bring as much attention to it as possible during the time period. So For those of you who don't want to see my hitman skills, because yes, you're a world record, but I've never tried to break a world record. Consider yourself lucky, because pretty good at hitman.
Cool, man. Well, that's that. I mean, Eli just kind of started it off, but we're
Uh-oh,
getting into
hold on. Sorry.
weapon.
You're good. Sorry, that was my
Okay,
bad.
you're good. But yeah, Eli just kind of started it off with questions for you. But guys, anybody in chat, this is the time where we just kind of relax a little bit, not as structured. This is the time where we really get to know our guest. Okay, we have Bryant here. Okay, we gotta ask questions. We're gonna come up with questions on the fly possibly, but we have some questions in here that Bryant has in here as well, or has seen in here in our Google Doc as well. But this is the time we just start asking questions. So, Bryant, the first question is, you've been making YouTube videos for a long time, right? YouTube content or just content in general for a long time, right? If you had to choose a moment, right, in the I guess in the timeline of your channel that really made your channel just blow up, like what is one that you had to choose that really started getting you traction and things like that?
So, that's a good question. I think there's probably two moments. And you can kind of see it. Like, so YouTube gives us like analytics, so you can kind of see like spikes in time periods. One was when I got to work with Rooster Teeth. So being here in Austin, Rooster Teeth is like 45 minutes down the street from my house. And back before Inside Gaming, there was a show called The No, and the host was Ashley Jenkins, or Ashley Burns, as she's known now. And she invited me to come on. I worked with them on a couple episodes, came on some podcasts, and then eventually became a writer for a couple episodes on The No before it turned into Inside Gaming. That allowed me to kind of have their audience come over to my show, so that helped me spike. But the biggest spike was probably the Cyberpunk issue, because I had been creating Stadia content for almost a year at that point. For almost about a year. And all of the demand and all of the interest for Stadia content kind of peaked at that moment, where people were wanting to see more and kind of find out more about the platform.
Cool. Well,
I
yeah.
have to agree with you because I saw on Reddit and in the Facebook groups. I don't know if you're active on Facebook, the different Facebook groups for Stadia. People began posting your videos, and I remember at a point where you said, if you're one of the many people asking how this amazing channel has so little views, remember to hit the subscribe
Yeah.
button. um, yeah, I can definitely agree with that, especially because I think you were one of the first. YouTube channels, because Stadia Source, I think you also credit them. They had put an article where they mentioned that Cyberpunk was getting delayed, even though I think it's CD Projekt Red. They didn't say it publicly.
Yeah, and YouTube's kind of a weird beast, man. Like, there are channels that just pop up overnight and get like millions and millions of views, but the other side of it is it's kind of strange because it's a snowball, and I hate hearing that, because like it's such a boring analogy, and it takes so long. But if you've never made a snowball, and I got to make plenty of them when we were frozen here in Texas this year. You basically create a small ball, and then you kind of roll it in the snow, and it gets bigger and it gets bigger and it gets bigger as it gains traction. YouTube's the same way. We just hit 4 years. The 200th episode's coming up next weekend, and it's just traction. Like, I pulled up the analytics this morning at breakfast with my wife, and I was like, an average video will get 500 views. Like, that's insane to me. Like, it's not the PewDiePie numbers or anything like that, but when you start looking at YouTube from the perspective of like coffee shops or comedy clubs, and you say, if I went up and did stand up and 19 people showed up just for me, like, that's huge. 10 people showing up, like, that's huge. So it's kind of just the mentality side, and just kind of keeping things going.
Cool. Well, we also have a question in chat. We'll let this one fly because it's actually kind of funny, I think. Royal Donut Gaming asked, has a Nerf report received a sponsorship / partnership with Screwball Whiskey yet?
No, I desperately want. I posted on Twitter a couple weeks ago that I was like, I want a whiskey sponsor. Like, I just want that. Like, Give me an energy drink sponsor and a whiskey sponsor, and I will be perfectly happy.
Yeah, amazing.
Get it soon. You'll get it soon.
Yeah,
Yes,
man.
yeah. I'm gonna put that on
Speaking
my
of,
inspiration board.
Yeah, man.
speaking of whiskey, I'm a huge whiskey enthusiast. I live in Denmark.
This guy.
I can drink whenever I want. I'm
This
19,
guy.
so uh, um, I'm a huge whiskey enthusiast. I like singleton whiskeys. I'm very picky with my whiskeys. I like
Okay.
Scotch whiskeys
Whiskey
and
connoisseur.
appropriate malt. So I want to hear what about your taste of whiskey? Which ones
So I'm
do
a
you
big fan
like?
of blends. Like, I know traditionally in the whiskey world, blends aren't considered like quality because, like, with a single malt, it's just you're pulling from one barrel and that's what you're getting in the whiskey, or you're just doing one batch and that's kind of what you're getting on the single malt side. Whereas with the blend, essentially what they're doing behind the scenes is they're taking multiple vats, mixing it together, and said this tastes the best, we're going to do this. So it's like when you're kids and you into like the soda machine and you're like a little bit of Coke, a little bit of Sprite, a little bit of Dr. Pepper. They basically do that with blend. And one of my favorites is a company based out of Texas, and it's called Cooper's Family Rye Whiskey. And they have a blended rye whiskey that is just like absolutely adore it. They're good. Buffalo Trace is another fantastic whiskey. Fun fact about Buffalo Trace, they're based out of Louisville, Kentucky. Or sorry, based out of Kentucky. I don't know if it's Louisville, but they are actually older than the United States. So they've been making whiskey longer than America was a
Dang.
country. So really, really kind of a cool concept. And their whiskey is fantastic. It's hard to find, but it's good. And then the other one is just like a down and dirty cheap whiskey. Would probably be like Wild Turkey, just because like it's good, it gets the job done. But oh yeah, I love whiskey.
Meanwhile, I'm nodding like I know anything about alcohol. Really, Eli's the only one that can drink because he's in
Yeah, same.
Denmark. Me and Ariel were like, bro, we're underage, dude. We're not we don't know alcohol.
Damn
The
it,
most,
I
like,
got that
honestly,
good rubbing alcohol. I
Yeah.
can recommend you some of that,
the
man.
most
Yeah.
like the most I have an alcohol conversation. The most I've ever had was a sip of beer from my pops when I was younger. You know, small little story. But the reason he did it was to get me to not want to drink alcohol because when I was younger, I was like, oh, this is disgusting. I'm never drinking this again. So now, like, I'm older. I'm like, yeah, I don't like beer, man. It's disgusting, right?
Well, and what I'll say is ooh, what are
oh my
those?
god, this guy.
Those are what I've been drinking during this
Okay.
show. Those are Tuborg beers.
All right. So I want to preface this by one thing because I didn't know you guys were under the age of 21. Do not underage drink. That is bad. Do not do it. Also, when I was in college or when I was starting college, we tried it was Fireball whiskey was popular just because it's so cheap and inexpensive. It's disgusting as hell. Even as an adult, I will tell you. So don't let like the Everclears or the Fireball whiskeys of the world ruin your opportunity to try it, because there is some really good bourbon whiskey that tastes good with like just ice or just water or nothing, just straight. But yeah, maybe once you guys turn 21 and conventions are a thing again, and we can all go to PAX or E3 if that's still around, we can kind of all get together and have a little bourbon education ceremony.
Yo, I'll DM you on Twitter as soon as I turn 21. Like, yo, what should I drink? Yo, what
Yep,
should I
yep,
drink,
yep.
man? Oh man, but yo, really cool there. But then we also have another question for you. Okay, this is more on the Stadia side because we have a lot of people that watch our show that are from the Stadia community. You know, what made you get into Stadia, invest in Stadia? You know, what was the thing that just kind of was the catalyst that was like, yo, let's get into Stadia?
I think the biggest driving factor was the fact that I'm on the Nerf report. So there's the opportunity to cover new technology, to cover a new cloud gaming platform, or just a new gaming platform in general. Like, that was probably the biggest driving factor. But the presentation that they did at what was that, like the developer conference, or
I think it was GDC.
GDC.
Yeah.
Yeah. At GDC really started to kind of get my mind running. And there, I used to be a streamer, and one of the things that kind of intrigued me the most was when they showed the ability to jump into video games directly after a YouTube video. And essentially there was kind of a monetization click that was like, oh my God, this makes sense from a content creation perspective, that if I were to play Assassin's Creed and do a let's play and people are like, oh man, that looks like fun, I want to play it, and then they could buy it through my YouTube video, there's a sense of monetization there. Granted, we still haven't seen that yet.
Yeah.
But that's something that's kind of intrigued me, is just the integration that Stadia has with YouTube. That's probably the biggest driving factor. But once I plugged it in, and being a big Destiny 1 fan, and I started playing Destiny 2 on the Chromecast, I was just kind of like, Jesus, this runs just as well as my PlayStation. And then when the PlayStation 5 came out, and you started to kind of click, and you're like, wait, my hard drive filled up in the first 2 days of owning my PlayStation 5 because Call of Duty took up like 40% of the hard drive.
Yeah.
That started to kind of get it, and it just became a snowball to the point, like I told the guy at the game van, I was like, yes, I play on Stadia, but it's just at this point it's an alternative platform to kind of everything else. It's kind of a nice little alternative platform.
Yeah, definitely agree with you on that point.
I
Because like
I
the
have
content
to.
creation side was what got me into it too. What got me into Stadia, like that content creation point was just like, yeah, Stadia, I feel like, could be really big for like content creators and all that stuff. Just we've seen it kind of ish. Like it's not the click the link in the video at the end where we could click on it and go to the game. But I mean, that's just, and really honestly, that's just gonna come at a point where, there's just more games on Stadia and more developers and publishers like widely accepting Stadia as a place to put their games, just like on, the Switch and the Xbox and PlayStation. But, I always thought that was the most interesting point of being able to, do a video or even just watch a video from a watcher standpoint and then just be able to click on that link, and small things like that, in contrast to them talking about teraflops the whole time, but how it was this much more powerful than PlayStation and the Xbox. It was like those little things that was like, okay, there's a little bit of innovation there. I talk about, shout out to Ryzak. He did his Game Over show, and I was talking about this a little bit. Innovation has always been my biggest thing, and seeing little things like that, like it felt like they were trying to change, and make a change and see and do something that's never been done before, and that was really, something that really got me into it as well. But yeah, go ahead, Eli.
Yeah, I have to agree with you, Bryant, especially about the hardware issue, not hardware, storage issue. I have a PS3. I think it's a slim version. I had to delete save files from my Assassin's Creed games in order to play and save The Last of Us. So I'm actually very angry at Google right now because they have spoiled me.
Yeah.
Yeah, man.
You kind of talked about like different things and innovation and on the content creation side. One of the things that I still think is an extremely like untapped market, especially on YouTube, is the potential that Stadia has for like machinima. And if you guys aren't familiar with what that term is, or people not listening or listening don't know what machinima is like where you take a video game and you can kind of turn it into a cartoon. So we saw it done with like Red versus Blue with Halo, where they made these animated series. Neebs Gaming does a fantastic job with like Arc and makes cartoons out of Arc. Um, Stadia has a really good opportunity with that, and I tried to do a little of it with Crata, and I've looked back at doing it again more. But when we did the Floor is Lava, I produced like a game show for the Floor is Lava, where essentially like you could run through the course and you'd see people actually playing it, and we made it like a game show. And then at the end of it, and it's like, if you think you can beat our best time from this week, click this link and it'll take you directly into the Floor is Lava. Um, there's a really cool opportunity there that, imagine going back to like when I was a kid at Sunday cartoons and watching something and then hearing, hey, you want to play this game, or do you want to transport yourself into this world that you just saw? Click this link. So, if you're making a cartoon show with Crata about like World War II and they're like running through the trenches, and then a viewer watching it is like, man, that's really cool, I want to go play that. They click it and they get transported into that world. There's really, I think, an untapped market there that I think, Stadia and cloud gaming kind of asserts itself for, especially in the sense that like you don't need a powerful console. If someone's watching it on YouTube and want to play the Floor is Lava, they can jump into the Floor is Lava directly on their smartphone. It's kind of a unique service.
Definitely
Oh
agree with that.
yeah, you're actually the creator of the floor is
Yes.
lava.
Yeah. Yeah.
And not to
Yeah.
sound like a fanboy or anything, but that was actually the
Oh,
first
thank
game I
you.
played on
Thank you,
Krita.
thank you. No, it's
Thank you for that.
the Floor is Lava was a really fun experience because I'd never made a game before, and it's something that just grew legs and took off. And I'm appreciative. I've become really good friends with the team over at Creta, and I owe them a ton of gratitude for kind of being so accepting and welcoming and helping me make games. But I owe that game a lot. Like it was so much fun.
Yo, I think we confirmed that not only is Eli Hitman Guru, he's now an official fanboy, fan number zero, like probably not zero, but like 1,202. I don't know, I was something like that. I don't know how many subs you have, but I was trying to give him a number because it would have been cool and funny. But yeah, he has his ID card that he's now a fanboy of the Nerf report and Bryant
Well,
Chappel.
and what was fun was like when the floor is lava was taken off, like there was a period where I would post the video and be like, "Oh, here's my best time of like 1 minute 30 seconds or something like that," and then somebody in the comment section would be like, "I did it in 20," and I'd be like, "What the hell are you talking about? You didn't do that in 20." And then they would post a video of them beating the level in 20 seconds, and then you have this moment where you're like, "Dude, I spent a week building that game, and you just built it in 20 seconds. What the hell is wrong with you?" And it's just like it's just rough, man. It's just, but it was fun. It was
Yeah,
fun to have that experience with other people.
yo, that's great, man. Well, I think we'll get into our next question. This is one of the questions I had, right? Because I know you play on a little bit of everything, right? You've had experience with a lot of games or and platforms, things like that. So, kind of talking about like we kind of touched on a little bit about like the previous generations, things like that. Like going into like you know this new generation with the Xbox Series X, you have PlayStation, the PS5, and then even on the other side of that, you have Stadia, Amazon Luna, and all those things. Like what do you think like makes a great platform, like a platform that's going to win, like let's just in that sense of the question, to win a generation, to win a console cycle, what do you think is something that's important for that?
I think it comes down to convenience and also content. I think that if you were to look at PlayStation's last generation, if you took away all of their content, um, they would not have dominated that last generation as much as they did. And I think that's kind of something you see continuing with PlayStation currently is that they're making sure that not only first party games are on the platform, but also secondary consoles and or secondary developed games and stuff like that are coming as well. But convenience, I think, is a huge thing. It's like one of the reasons I prefer Stadia is that I click a game and I'm in. I don't have to install. I don't have to load. I don't have to worry about anything like that. And PlayStation has kind of created a little bit of convenience as well. They've created an infrastructure. Like one of my favorite things about PS5, and I think it's extremely underrated, is that when you're doing trophy hunting, you can actually open up your PlayStation menu, and it like shows you a video of how to achieve a trophy or where like a hidden thing is. Like that's such a cool concept, and I know that Stadia was like originally trying to pull that off, but it's kind of an underrated feature of like, hey, we're just trying to make it convenient to play the games. Um, and really, as much content as Xbox has going for them, I find their OS like super inconvenient to use. Like the squares and the menus. Like I powered up my Xbox One a couple days ago, and I was just like, "Yep, I remember why I left this because it was just so confusing to get running."
Yeah, and on that small little thing, side story, if you didn't know, I had an Xbox One for all of one day. Um, Christmas morning comes around. I remember basically I was super excited for this Xbox. Me and my best friend, we were like talking for months, like, yo, we're gonna get the Xbox. It's gonna be fun. It's gonna be exciting. And honestly, we were like bouncing between an Xbox One or getting a Wii U at the time because that was before the Switch came out. And then we decided we chose wrongly to get the Xbox One. Maybe we chose wrongly. Maybe we chose right. I don't know. It's either or. But point is, like, we were super excited. We got to the day. Christmas morning comes around, and then I open up my Xbox. I open it up. I'm really excited. I'm sitting there. I'm like, well, I gotta wait for the games down because I think it was it had Gears of War. It was a Gears of War bundle. So I sat there. I plugged it up and everything, and I'm like, okay, I gotta wait for it to update. So it was like 2 or 3 hours, probably a little longer than that. And then with like updates, I'm like, okay, well I gotta sign in, make a Hotmail account. I don't remember what it is. It's something wild, but I had to make like an account for it, and all that stuff. And I'm sitting there, I'm playing. And I'm like, I don't like this. This is the UI and all that stuff. I'm just like, yeah, this is what I was hyped for. This is what I was excited for. And then that same night, 'cause I finally got to play at night. So I had to go to family's house, like, during the day. It was Christmas. I got back, and after messing with it a little more, I played like Assassin's Creed and Lego Batman or something wild. I was like 12, and I that same night I packed it up, put the foam and the sheets, everything on the Xbox, put it back, put it in the box, put it at the door. I found the receipt and in the bag, the GameStop bag for the Xbox, put it in there. Put it at the door, and I don't even know how I found the bag. I was looking hard for though, because I was like, I want this to be as convenient as possible, because I just bugged my mom about getting this Xbox. I put it at the door, and I was like, yeah, sorry mom, I apologize, I didn't like this. It was terrible. Oh man, it was probably the funniest Christmas story I'll ever have for the end of time. But yeah, man, I definitely grew on the Xbox thing, where like I hated the UI and all that stuff, and it was just it was terrible. But I guess we'll get into our next question here. Another question I had, and piggybacking off that last question about the generations and things like that. What is something that you've noticed from this generation, at least to start, right? That I guess my question is like, if you had to compare the two, like what are some of the things that you had to notice, right? That you've noticed between the start of the PS4 Xbox One cycle and the start of this one, but if you want to speak on some of that.
Um, this has been a weird one, just because I think with a lot of supply issues, that it's kind of been a slow start. So there's a lot of people who want consoles and can't get them. Now, going back to that game truck, I mean, that was one of the things I was talking to those guys about. I was like, you don't have any PlayStation 5s or Xbox Series X's in here? And they were like, no, we can't get them. And so I think that there's a good portion of the player base that can't get their hands on it, one. But the thing that's been really disturbing, and I say disturbing just because it's like, from a content creator perspective, we have a responsibility. I always use the word steward of the industry, because I grew up loving video games. I grew up being a fan of developers and of everything, and I believe that any time that you make an impact on something, or you do something, you have to be a steward of it. So you have to leave it a better place, or equally as good of a place than when you arrived. So that's my mentality, which is why you see me very rarely. Can I cuss on this?
Go ahead. You're good.
Okay,
You're good.
sorry. That's rarely why you see me shit on developers or shit on games, because it's like, there's so much work that goes into it, and I'm not going to go out there and build a game from the ground up. And I don't care if a game is 60 frames per second or 4K, as long as the game is entertaining and is worth the money. I'm going to play it. And there's people who criticize me for that, but the disturbing thing from this generation is almost the level of toxicity in the video game industry, that the battle lines have been drawn so clear of just, screw PlayStation this, Xbox sucks that. And yes, that console war has always been going on, but I think because there's so many podcasts and so many YouTube channels and so many influencers and people just trying to get noticed, that the level of toxicity, I think, is at an all-time high. Like, the take from yesterday, I think it was, where the kid was like, Aloy doesn't look like a real woman. And it's just like, what? Where the hell did that come from? Like, why is that something that's necessary to be brought up? And then when you look through the rest of his tweets, it's like, this guy's clearly just like an Xbox fan, and he's just hating on PlayStation for everything else. And then you have guys like Jez Corden, who I think does a great job with Windows Central, but he also just shits on PlayStation a lot. And you have the Crap Gamer, who's a huge PlayStation fan, but craps on Xbox, or whichever way. It's one of the ways. I'm not sure which way it is, but there's just these level of toxicity, and it's just weird. It's super bizarre, because at the end of the day, we're all just gamers. We love to play video games. If you play on PlayStation and I play on Stadia, or if you play on Xbox and I play on Nintendo, it doesn't matter. Like, just play your video games and enjoy it. we can have Pepsi and Coke and Royal Cola and be perfectly fine in this world. We can have McDonald's, Burger King, and Jack in the Box and be perfectly fine in this country as well. The idea that in the video game industry, in the video game world, there can only be PlayStation or there can only be Xbox. Just, I think it's one of the most idiotic takes in the industry today. Sorry, that was a very long-winded
No,
answer to your question.
I definitely agree on that. Like the toxicity is super wild, and honestly, it's like in a way, it's a double-edged sword. You know, it's like that toxicity is terrible for us, But then on the other side of it, it's like that toxicity is why, in a way, why Xbox changed their mind. They rescinded last year about I think it was like Xbox Gold or anything like that, and it's a wild conversation to have because it's like like for all the reasons you said, it's terrible, right? It really sucks that we just can't all just be gamers together and play games together and enjoy them together. But at the same time, like even on that side, it's like, oh well, that toxicity of people saying super crazy and wild things is how sometimes we get things rescinded or changed the way we wanted to be changed. And I mean, there's just it's a wild social aspect in all of these things, especially with like social media. I know I use social twice, but social media there, but like it's a weird dynamic there with everything there. And then also on the topic of toxicity, there's also toxicity that exists in the industry itself on the publisher and developer side. Not only are the players sometimes attacking developers and publishers there, but also within their companies, like we saw with Cyberpunk. It was a big thing with Cyberpunk with crunch, and really it's been a conversation for the past like 2 or 3 years probably about like crunch and all that things, and how publishers are pressuring developers to meet deadlines and all those different things, and then developers are being worked for 100 hours a week to pump out these games. And it's a wild conversation there. It's definitely really weird.
And it's really interesting, and this is something that I've been picking up kind of recently, is that like when you look at like the Kotakus, the Polygons, the IGNs, the GameSpots of the world, like the majority of those people are based within like a 60-mile radius of San Francisco. And in a lot of cases, the majority of those journalists all share apartments, but they just work at different outlets. Now, I'm not saying that every journalist has bad takes, and I think that there are really some good video game outlets and journalists, and I think occasionally, the big four, they do a good job. But when it comes to crunch, I mean, that's an area that I kind of just shake my head at, because I think that anyone in their right mind could tell you that crunch is a natural process in the work environment. Like with the Nerf report, for example, Saturday through Sunday, those are 48-hour work days. Like those are crunch time periods for me. Does it suck? Yes, but it's kind of what I have to do to accomplish what I'm trying to get to and at the end goal. And it's kind of a creative process. Do I think that people should be like, hey man, if you don't crunch, you're fired? No, that shouldn't be the case. But if a developer wants to work hard, or if people want to, say, hey, we're going to pull an all-nighter, if you want to stick around, like, feel free to stick around. I don't think that should be villainized, in the sense that, like, that sometimes is just part of the creative process, that, hey, crunch is inevitable in some occasions. But
I get that point.
yeah. But going back to kind of the question that you also said about like this generation, what's different? I think that another thing is that the lines between the consoles are also becoming extremely apparent. Like Xbox is clearly all about games as a service and subscriptions. Like they're all about Game Pass. Like that's what they want you to have. The games that are coming out on the platform are all games as a service to ensure that once they get you hooked, you're hooked in. So like Sea of Thieves is going to have seasons, and Halo for sure will have seasons, and Hellblade, I hope to God, doesn't have seasons, but it probably will. And PlayStation seems to be like, hey man, we're about those single player narratives. Like we're going to knock those out of the park, and we're going to make sure that those are here. And Nintendo is just like, we're going to have what we've always had, those core games that you've come to love. So I think that for the first time ever, the definition between the flat platforms is extremely clear as well.
Definitely get your points there. Definitely, and I have to say I agree on that. And that I never looked at it from that perspective of like the creative process. Like it's something that's inherently there.
Mhm.
But I have to agree with you there. I understand it now. Your point there with the creative process. That's gonna be a thing. I think I was more so because of the way I approached it. I think I was more so referring to just how I mean, maybe not though. I was thinking in my head like I remember it was a big thing because it was like they were pushing them like extra hard to this
Mhm.
deadline, and then they push it back only to delay it. You know what I'm saying? That's the part where I
Yeah,
was
yeah,
like,
yeah,
man,
yeah.
that's wild. That's
Yeah,
a
like that's the
wild
type
thing.
of stuff, and I had a conversation with someone about this here locally, and I was like, that's the type of stuff that I think we can all agree is just a
Hmm.
shitty employer. Like
Yeah.
that, you don't want that as a workplace. But to say that studios or creative environments should be a zero crunch environment, I just
That's
don't think that
unrealistic.
any
Yeah.
creative
Yeah.
environment can be exclude. Like you have to have crunch. It's part of the creative process, but
Yeah.
to be like, hey man, we need this by noon or else you're
Hmm.
fired. Like that's the part where it's like, hey dude, like no, like stop
Yeah.
that. That's not cool.
Well, definitely agree with your point there. That's
Uh,
that's really interesting there. Go ahead, Eli.
Speaking of creativity and workplace environment, before we head on over to the next question, I have two short questions. The Nerf report, is it just run by you, or do you have a team to edit and film and stuff?
Yeah, it's just me. So when I look off camera,
Just you. Oh,
I'm talking to myself, yelling to myself, acting as if there's a team. No, I mean eventually I'd love to get there, but everything that is done, thumbnails, videos, editing, writing, research, all of that is me. So um if you want to learn how to do Photoshop, start a YouTube channel because you're going to teach yourself how to do it.
Nice.
And then video editing as well. It's all just been self-taught at this point. So hopefully, I mean,
wow.
I love when people ask that question, to be honest, because it means like the world to me, because it's like it makes me realize that it's coming off as a multi-person production, which is kind of
Yeah.
fun.
I for sure definitely thought this whole time you had a team,
I
man.
have always thought that
Yeah.
I have always thought that you had a team behind you to
Yeah.
edit and stuff, but it's very surprising that you're doing all of this amazing
I
work
wish.
by
I wish.
yourself.
I would kill for an editor and I would kill for a writer. And my whole thing is that like, and this is kind of like where it's kind of polar opposites, because where I'm like, oh yeah, crunch is okay. I'm also like, I'm not going to hire someone or let somebody work for me unless I can pay them. Like, people are like, oh, I'll work for pizza or just shout outs. And I'm like, no, like I want to be able to pay you
Yeah.
and have that breakdown where it's like you're being paid for what you're doing. But one of the things that's kind of been a cool takeaway is the experience of like when I did work with Rooster Teeth, when the No was going on. They had two shows. I think it was like a roundup, and then they had like a daily morning topic, and they had like 4 or 5 people working on that show. Two editors, one writer, and then the host. Um, and I'm at a point right now with the Nerf report where we're doing 3 videos a day, and it's just me. And that it's a lot. Like it definitely cuts into some of my free time and sanity at times, but it's something that's important to me, because if I can grow it to the level of what the No was, now that ad revenue that's coming in, because you're on such a small scale, means you can do so much more with it. So it's kind of stay lean, stay nimble type of focus.
The other question I had, maybe it's too personal and you don't want to answer it. You mentioned that you had a full-time job. Do you want to tell
Yeah.
us what that
So
job
no,
is?
it
Is it
it has
related to
nothing to do
video
with the video game
editing?
industry. I'm in the construction industry. So I deal with builders and contractors and fun stuff and designers and stuff like that. In fact, the majority of the people in that industry have no clue what I get to do and the fun things that I have. And it's weird because the construction industry, like I have customers who don't even have computers, that they still fax things in, and like they're so behind the times. I had one customer I was talking to the other day who still has a landline. He doesn't even have a cell phone. So like it's weird because on one side I get to talk about all this technology and consoles and futuristic stuff, and then go on to my day job and it's just like, you know,
Messenger pigeons.
exactly. Yeah. Let me sit it first. Yeah. Oh no, my video.
Yo, Eli, did you want to ask this question from Royal Donut?
No, Ariel
Oh, okay.
takes it.
Okay,
He's
yeah.
good friends with
Oh, it was
the.
area.
Yep, yep. Yep. So Juan asked, do you think this last iteration of console, or wait, do you think this is the last iteration of consoles, or do you think we'll still get the pro versions of like the PS5, let's say like a PS5 Pro or an Xbox Series X Pro or whatever the heck it may be called?
That's an interesting question. What do you guys think?
I feel like
Personally,
oh,
I have been watching Sonny for a long time, and I think he mentioned that there was an interview with, I don't know his name, the lead
Phil Spencer.
head of Xbox. Maybe you have Phil Spencer. He said that this was going to be the last generation of Xbox, but we haven't heard anything from PlayStation. So from Xbox side, I believe that they want to go all cloud. I'm not sure about PlayStation.
What about you two?
Uh, I was gonna say it was tough. I was gonna say the same thing Eli said about Xbox. Like we know Xbox is going into that direction just based off of X Cloud. They've shown it. Um, PlayStation seems to be doing something there with PlayStation Now. I haven't actually tried it. I tried, but I couldn't. My payment wouldn't go through when I tried to pay the thing there with PlayStation. So, there you go. But it was only $1. It was so weird. Anyway, yeah. I mean, it's weird. I don't think PlayStation. I feel like PlayStation has gotten comfortable, and they don't want to change. Like as we can see with crossplay, it's certain things there. Like we can see when like PlayStation gets comfortable, they don't really want to move. You know, they're comfortable with their having all the best exclusives on the market. They're comfortable with being able to say, oh yeah, we're not going to do crossplay with this, and we're gonna charge you extra if you want to do crossplay or some or however they do things there. They've gotten in a corner where they're just kind of like, yeah, we're good there. So I don't know. Maybe they do it. We see them exploring it, but I think they're exploring it more so because Xbox is exploring it. And Nintendo even did a little thing with Control where they made a cloud gaming version of Control. So I think they're only entertaining the idea because Xbox and PlayStation or Xbox and Nintendo are entertaining the idea. And Nintendo's obviously entertaining it because Xbox is. So I mean, it's hard to say. It's hard to say.
as for me, thoughts on it. Xbox does really seem to be being towards the whole cloud-based kind of deal. But with PlayStation, dude, I'm honestly like not even sure. Like they got like I'm sure they'll probably have a PS5 Pro or something. Just seems like a PlayStation thing for me for some reason. But like they also got their PS Now, which I'm waiting for it to come on mobile iOS. But they got their PS Now. I've tried it a bit. It was nice. It was a little bit wonky that they whatchamacallit, you can use the PS3 controller and PS4 controller, but you can't use the DualSense, which is a little weird. I want to use the touchpad in games, and it's like, nope. So you got them kind of dipping their toes into cloud, and I'm not sure if they're gonna make any big moves on that side of things. But I also saw reports of them trying to make mobile games as well. So I don't really know what Sony's doing. They're kind of like confusing me, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's a really I think I'm on the same page as all you guys right now because like Xbox for sure. I just don't know how you get any better than the Xbox Series X other than just creating a PC, right? And Phil Spencer has also said that like they're working on TV dongles for uh xCloud and stuff like that. So I think that the Xbox Series X and S, I think that these will be the final Xbox consoles. I'd be willing to go on a limb for that because I could also see Microsoft transitioning just to a software perspective of saying Game Pass is now our offering, or the Xbox game library is now our offering. PlayStation, um, yeah, they just came out and told that they're going to be investing heavily into PlayStation Now. They're in an interesting position where they don't have to create TV dongles because they're already creating TVs. So they could do a thing kind of like what I talked about with Amazon Luna and the Fire TV, that they just create a native PlayStation Now app on the Sony TV, and you could stream whatever games, or like a remote play app on the TV. Um, they're the ones that I'm interested in the most, kind of like you guys are saying. I agree. PlayStation 5 Pro is probably going to happen. I think that would be the last PlayStation. But then again, I remember thinking like mid PlayStation 4 generation, like how could graphics get any better than this? And
Yeah.
sure enough, they got there. So we could have a PlayStation 6, but I would lean on the fact saying that a PlayStation 5 Pro is probably the farthest we'll get there. But Nintendo's just going to keep doing what Nintendo does. Like uh, they, I don't know. I'm not a big Nintendo fan when it comes to stuff like that. So I think that we'll see the Switch Pro, and then maybe they'll continue to have consoles coming out of there, or we'll have a Nintendo smartphone. I think that they're a company that could easily give Apple a run for their money if they were to create like a Nintendo smartphone, just from the sense of like you have access to all the Nintendo games and everything else. I think that would be an interesting move for them.
Cool. So I know the guys are typing more questions, but I mean we've had you for like 2 hours, man. So kind of want to let you go. But if you don't mind, they have like I think they have like
Yeah, that's fine.
two
Yeah, yeah,
questions.
yeah.
Okay, yeah. So yeah, Legend, you can ask your question.
Well, Royal Donut asked, first of all, are you a project manager? Question
For
mark?
the construction industry, no, I'm in sales, so I get to push products to companies.
Oh,
Right.
that's why you're so good at promoting Stadia.
Yeah, but they didn't accept my application. Can you
No.
believe it? I applied and they didn't.
Their loss.
Well, here's the thing: is I'm a college dropout, so when Google's algorithms take all in their applications and they don't see a college degree next to my name, obviously that's going to be just like we're not gonna interview this guy.
Well, that sucks. They'd have a very strong partner there, but you know,
Yeah. We could do some really cool things. Like I
Yeah.
tweeted the other day about like a Google TV network or a Stadia TV network that I think would just kick ass. Especially kind of going back to like that state share and Ready Play, like having a thing where like, oh, we're gonna bring Assassin's Creed on to talk about the latest game, and here's Assassin's Creed, whatever the new one is, and you want to try it out right now. Here, click this button and connect your controller, and you could play Assassin's Creed on your television. There's some really cool opportunities there, and I hope they pursue it. Like I think that'd be an awesome idea.
Sure, definitely agree with that. That sounds really cool. But like I said, we're trying to let you go. We're trying to let you go. Do whatever you gotta do. Eli's like, he's like at what is it, 1 a.m. for you or something like that? Like it's late for you. Um, yeah. So we'll let you go now. Thank you. I just want to say on behalf of all of us, thank you for accepting our humble invitation. It was very humbling, very exciting. I know I was excited. I was a little nervous, man. We got in a Discord call like 20 minutes earlier. I was like, oh man, I'm mad nervous. Before I even called, I was like, oh man, this is Bryant, man. I got. I was checking everything. I was like, yo, let me make sure we have no technical difficulties. Of course, I check everybody else but me, and I'm muted for the first like 2 minutes. But man, I was really excited to have you on. So thank you.
Yeah,
from all of us.
anytime, please. It's one of those things that I think it's important to, um, there's the saying that like a rising tide lifts all ships, and I think that some of the success that I've had on the Nerf report is because of channels like yourself of saying, oh, you've got to check this out or you've got to do this, and I think it's only fair for me to take my channel and also use it as an opportunity to lift you guys up as well, because podcasts like yourself are doing great jobs covering the news and creating communities, and yeah, I mean, you guys are doing a great job.
Thank you, man. Really, really
Well, thank
appreciate it. Well, then we'll get into, I guess, this is the portion of the show. We kind of do it in the midway too, but this is where we just kind of close things out. So, of course, this is the Cloudian Podcast. We got Ejahmix, the Legend 21, and Eli Levy, and of course, Bryant Chappel from the Nerf Report, the one and only, the Legend. And it really, honestly, the Legend 21 shouldn't be called the Legend 21. It should be the Legend Bryant Chappel.
No, I can't
from the
take
Nerf
that. I
Report.
can't take that from him. I can't take that.
Oh man, but yeah, man, thank you to all of you that caught the show today. Of course, we're live weekly, usually from 4 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. or 4 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. Pacific. That's usually our time, but of course, we want to be able to accommodate the legend. Or you said don't call you legend, okay? Bryant Chappel. We want to make sure we got him on here. So, of course, 4 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. Pacific every Monday. Check us. We talk about cloud gaming, gaming in general, industry stuff. We had a really good conversation today, as you guys can see. And we cover the Stadia news, of course, all types of stuff every Monday. So definitely check us out. And of course, we have our link tree. Link in the description of this stream. And of course, we have a command that Eli or Legend will put in the chat for all our, social channels, our YouTubes individually, our Cloudian Cast Twitter. Gio, drop a follow there as well. And all those things of that nature. Of course, thanks again to Bryant Chappel, Nerf Report. Really appreciate you. Go follow him on Twitter, Bryant Chappel, at Bryant Chappel, and on YouTube, The Nerf Report. And yeah, man, that's the show. Thanks for coming through, guys. Adios.
Thanks, guys. Can you guys hear my dog barking?
Nah, you're good.